Chapter 51. Buying a company building. After sending Tony and the others back, Li Heng did not stay with Tony, but took Banner directly to his warehouse. When Banner came out of the portal, the first thing he saw was the abomination that was frozen into an ice lump, and then he saw Samuel next to it. At this time, Samuel wanted to study the abomination, but Xiao Zhuzh would not let him touch it, so he began to circle around the abomination anxiously, muttering, "Why hasn't Li come back yet?" When he finally saw Li Heng coming out of the portal, Samuel ran towards Li Heng and shouted, "Oh, you're finally back. Come on, agree to let me study this big guy. I can't wait to get started." At this time, a voice came from behind Li Heng, "Mr. Lan? Are you Professor Samuel? Why are you here?" Hearing someone calling his name, Samuel quickly looked behind Li Heng, and then he saw Banner. Then, Samuel was so scared that he quickly ran back, saying to Li Heng as he ran, "Li, why did you bring Banner here? Don't you know that he is prone to that kind of problem? Although I have injected him with inhibitors, I can't guarantee that the inhibitors will be effective in the long run." Li Heng asked Xiao Zhuzh to bring Samuel to him again, and then said to him, "You don't have to worry about that. I have a way to keep Banner in the state he wants to be in. Unless he is willing to release the Hulk, no one here can make him emotionally excited to the point of transformation." Then Li Heng said to Banner, "As for Samuel, I brought him here. After all, after this incident, he must be the primary target of many people. In addition, I plan to study serum to strengthen the bodies of relatives and friends. Samuel happens to be a professional in this field, so we reached an agreement." After listening to Li Heng's explanation, Banner was still a little worried. "Li, you want to study the serum too? This is a very dangerous thing." "Oh, Banner, don't worry. My goal is to stay healthy. After all, a healthy body is able to defend itself when in danger. So you don't have to worry about me having any weird goals. I know better than you the harm caused by casually studying the serum." After finishing speaking, Li Heng looked at Samuel. "Besides, I believe Samuel would not do anything secretly, right?" Samuel heard Li Heng's words, remembered Li Heng's ability, and then assured, "Don't worry, I won't do that kind of experiment without your permission." The little Zhuzh beside him also spoke up. "Master, rest assured, I will watch over him." After hearing what little Zhuzh said, Banner noticed this little guy who was less than 1 meter tall, and then was surprised to find that this little guy seemed to have a very high sense of autonomy. "Li, is it artificial intelligence?" Li Heng saw Banner had been looking at Xiao Zhuzh, and then explained to Banner. "He is a silicon-based life form, but you can also think of him as artificial intelligence." "Wow, this is the first time I've seen what artificial intelligence looks like up close." Banner sighed there, and then Samuel couldn't wait to say to Li Heng, "So when do we start the research?" After hearing what Samuel said, Li Heng also felt that it was time to let Samuel start doing research. However, when he looked up at the old warehouse in front of him and the underground space that Li Heng had dug out last time, Li Heng thought it was a perfect secret base. But now that there were more people around, Li Heng suddenly felt that it was out of place to be in the warehouse. Just as Li Heng was looking at the warehouse, wondering what to do, his cell phone rang. I took out my cell phone and saw that it was Lin Yi calling. "Hey, Lin Yi, is there anything wrong?" "Li Heng, I do have a little thing to tell you." Then Li Heng looked at Samuel and Banner and waved at him, motioning them to go over and take a look and not disturb Li Heng from making a phone call. Li Heng said to the phone, "Well, I'm listening. What's the matter?" The short video business has gradually spread across the country with these popular events, but now we don't have enough staff here, and the office space is getting more and more crowded, so I'm thinking, should we find a new place, a bigger one? After hearing Lin Yi say this and looking at the warehouse in front of him, Li Heng had an idea in his mind. Then he said to Lin Yi, "Okay, wait for me to go to the company, and we will plan this matter carefully. Let's do it tomorrow." "I will go to the company tomorrow." "Okay, I'll wait for you at the company." After hanging up the phone, Li Heng called Samuel and Banner over, and said, "Okay, let's not do anything for the next few days. Wait a few days, and I will find a larger place, and we will move there directly, and we won't have to stay here anymore." Before, Li Heng's idea was to hide if possible, and it would be best if he could not be discovered. But now he doesn't think so. He wants to find a place that is big enough, move the company there, set up a few laboratories, and bring Xiaozuj, Samuel, Banner, and others there directly, openly, without having to hide at all. Thinking of this, Li Heng asked them to stay here for a few days. Banner, you guys just wait here for a while. When I find a suitable place, we can go there directly. We don't need to do research in this warehouse anymore. Li Heng asked Xiaozuj and Xuanlong to look after the two people, and then went home. The next day, Li Heng came to the company early and found Lin Yi, who was busy. Li Heng and Lin Yi discussed it and both felt that it would be better to just find the largest place this time and do it all in one go, thus saving the trouble of moving the company later. Then Lin Yi handed the matter over to his subordinates, and he and Li Heng went out to find a new address for the company. Then the two of them looked around for a few days and finally found a building that satisfied both of them. The building is located in Manhattan and is more than 20 stories high. Then Li Heng and Lin Yi found the owner of the building, bargained, and bought the building with a loan. When negotiating the price, Li Heng realized that the person who was negotiating the price with them was not the real owner. The owner of this building was the former king of the underground, Kingpin. But after Kingpin disappeared, the building was taken over by other gangsters. Hearing this, Li Heng paused as he was about to pay. He didn't expect to hear the name Jin Bing here again. However, since this building was also robbed by another gangster, Li Heng was not going to be a sucker, so he went to talk to the gangster and finally bought the building for $1. Chapter 52. Looking at the building in front of him that had become his, Li Heng had already made preparations to replan the building and allocate the uses of each floor. Walking into the building that had been vacant for many days, Li Heng and Lin Yi both felt that the decoration inside was actually still in good condition. It was just that because no one had been there was a layer of dust, so only a thorough cleaning was needed and there was no need to redecorate. Li Heng, now that we have bought such a large building, what should we do if we can't use all the money? Li Heng looked at Lin Yi unhappily. We agreed to buy a bigger place in one go, so we don't have to move the company anymore. Now you are facing the whole building, and you are starting to worry about having too much space. After hearing what Li Heng said, Lin Yi felt that he might have thought too much, so he scratched his head. Li Heng continued. In that case, let's divide the floors first. Since you said there's too much space to use, let's allocate floors 1 to 10 for the company to use as offices. As for the floors above, I want to build a few laboratories. After hearing Li Heng's arrangement, Lin Yi began to feel that it was not going to work. No, if you do this, you will just take away half of the floor. What if the company expands again and there is no room left? Li Heng was so angry at Lin Yi that he almost laughed. Then tell me, what should we do? Let me see if you can give me an answer. Then, under Li Heng's gaze, Lin Yi was reluctant to give up so many floors after a long time, so he said to Li Heng. Or, I'll just take the whole building. Didn't you say that you don't need so much space now? I can just leave it there if I don't need it. Besides, our company is growing so fast, it won't be long before we can use the whole building. What about my lab? There's no room left. Find a solution for me. Lin Yi chuckled. Or you can look around and see if there are any buildings like this. You can just buy another one and use it as a laboratory. That would be great. As for this one, just give it to the company. Li Heng didn't expect Lin Yi to think this way, but after hearing what Lin Yi said, Li Heng also thought it was a good idea. So Li Heng asked Xiaozuj to investigate to see if there were any such places. After Xiaozuj's search, there was no building, but there was a house in the suburbs of New York. Li Heng asked Xiaozuj to send the location and geographical environment of the house, and then checked it out. Upon seeing this, Li Heng immediately fell in love with this place. This house is located in the suburbs of New York. It is a remote place but there are not many people there. There is also a big river next to it. The surrounding environment is very good. Judging from the pictures, it should be a leisure and vacation manor. After reading the information sent by Xiaozuj, Li Heng discovered that this manor should be the last place where Jin Bing had not been dealt with yet. So Li Heng said to Lin Yi. Okay, since you want this building, I'll give it to you. I found another good place, but it's in the suburbs. I originally wanted to put the laboratory and the company together, so I would have time to visit the company often, but I found a better place, so I can stay there more often. Lin Yi is now very excited because he owns the whole building, so in front of Li Heng he doesn't care whether he will come to the company or not. Looking at Lin Yi's expression, Li Heng knew that he was already thinking about moving the company, so he said. Okay, in that case, I'll leave all the company's affairs to you. I'm going to set up my laboratory. While Lin Yi began to arrange the company's moving matters, he waved goodbye to Li Heng. Then Li Heng left. He wanted to take over the manor first, and then take little Zudge with him to renovate and transform it. In the next few days, Li Heng put all his heart and soul into the transformation of the manor. After Xiao Zudge's planning, Li Heng first upgraded the security measures of the manor, then modernized the interior decoration, and moved all the things in the previous warehouse here. After these days of getting to know each other, Samuel and Banner were able to discuss the topic of serum peacefully. On this day, when the two were still discussing how to improve the serum like before, Li Heng was suddenly teleported to the warehouse. As soon as he appeared, Li Heng said to the two people, "You two, I have good news for you." Samuel and Banner both turned to look at Li Heng, waiting for him to speak. "Our new laboratory has been completely renovated and remodeled according to your standards." Hearing Li Heng say this, Samuel was the first to ask, "Is it finally done? Can we go over now?" "That's right. I came here to bring you with me. We will live directly in the manor from now on. Oh, by the way, I haven't introduced you yet. The new laboratory is a manor I converted. The environment there is very good. You will definitely like it." After saying that, Li Heng brought the two people to the gate of the manor. Li Heng was ready to take them on a thorough tour. But what I didn't expect was that Samuel's attention was only on doing the experiment, and he didn't care about the environment at all. For so many days, he could only watch the abomination but couldn't do the experiment, which really made Samuel anxious. Therefore, Li Heng could only let Xiao Zudge take Samuel to his laboratory, while Li Heng took Banner to continue visiting the manor. Banner was very surprised to see the manor, which covered such a large area, had a large lawn in front, a river in the back, and was very quiet and suitable for living. "Banner, don't be surprised. From now on, the manor will be our own territory. You can enjoy life here anytime." Then Li Heng took Banner to his room. "This is your room, what do you think?" Banner checked and found that the house was located on the side of the first floor, and the window gave him a good view of the large lawn and the woods in the distance. Banner nodded, expressing his satisfaction. Li Heng took him to the second and third floors and introduced them to Banner. "Your room is right next to Samuel's. You two live close to each other, so you can discuss anything you want at any time." After looking at all the rooms, Banner was very confused. "So where is the lab? Why don't I see Samuel?" Li Heng chuckled and brought Banner to the first floor lobby, then motioned Banner to look at the wall in the corner. Banner took a few glances but didn't see anything. At this time, Li Heng walked forward, and in Banner's surprised gaze, he walked into the wall and disappeared. Banner stood there in a daze, rubbing his eyes, thinking that he was dazzled, until Li Heng's head popped out from the wall. "Come in and take a look." Banner then walked into the wall, stretched out his hand to try, and found that he didn't touch anything. Then he realized that there was no wall in front of him, it was empty, so he also followed Li Heng and walked in. Chapter 53. After entering, Banner saw a staircase leading down. He followed Li Heng down and heard Li Heng say, "I used magic to cover this place up. It's just a trick so that people who are not familiar with it won't find the entrance." "Wow, cool." Following Li Heng to the basement, Banner discovered that the space here seemed much larger than he had imagined. And Banner saw Samuel, who had already put on a white coat and was ready to do experiments. "Li Heng, I have also expanded the space in the basement to a certain extent. We don't have to worry about the width and height. It is enough for us now. If there is not enough space in the future, I can expand it." After showing Banner around the manor and the laboratory, Li Heng let him go around on his own. Sitting on the balcony of his room on the second floor and looking at the manor in front of him, Li Heng felt very satisfied. Li Heng comfortably made a cup of coffee on the coffee machine in the house, and then drank the coffee while enjoying the breeze on the balcony. Because his room was facing the gate of the manor, when Li Heng looked at the empty yard in front of the manor for a long time, he suddenly felt, "Well, it seems like there are fewer people now, so there are a lot of empty rooms." Li Heng muttered to himself. At this moment, Lin Yi called. "Li Heng, the company has moved everything. We are planning to organize a celebration for all employees. Do you want to come?" Hearing Lin Yi's words, Li Heng became interested. His manor had just been completed, so he planned to take Banner and Samuel with him to eat, drink and have some fun. After hanging up the phone, Li Hung found Banner and Samuel and discovered that Banner had already started doing experiments with Samuel. Then when they heard Li Hung say that he was going to a big party, both of them shook their heads and said they didn't want to go. Samuel was afraid of being found by the bureaucrats, and Banner was afraid of turning into the Hulk in a noisy environment. Although Li Hung repeatedly assured them that nothing would happen, neither of them planned to go. There was no choice, Li Hung had to go alone at night. In the evening, Li Hung, Lin Yi, and the company's employees ate and drank to their heart's content before going home. In the following time, Li Hung's daily routine was to practice his mastery of spatial power and strengthen his physical strength. However, without Hulk as a sparring partner, his physical strength increased slowly. Then he would go to see the progress of Xiaozuj and Samuel. Soon, it was Christmas. Well, Li Hung didn't have any special feelings about this festival and planned to treat it like an ordinary festival. But a week in advance, Pepper had already discussed with the old man and asked them to go to Tony's villa together to celebrate Christmas. The old man was very happy about Pepper's invitation, so he made the decision for Li Hung and agreed. It just so happened that Li Hung's parents were planning to travel and couldn't come back for Christmas, so there was no situation where the two families' plans collided. So when Christmas came, the old man took Li Hung out early. Because the old man was old, Li Hung drove the car and brought a lot of gifts and things to Tony's villa. "Hi, Master Li, welcome." Pepper stepped forward to greet the old man, and Li Hung was handed over to Tony to entertain. "Merry Christmas, Li." "Oh, Tony, Merry Christmas." After saying hello, Li Hung noticed that Tony's face looked a little strange, so he asked. "Tony, what's wrong with you? Why do you look a little unwell?" "Oh, it's okay. I just didn't sleep well yesterday. It's nothing." At this time, Li Hung took out the things the old man asked him to bring from the car, including Christmas gifts and gifts for first visits. When Pepper saw the gift, she was polite, but the old man said, "This is my first time visiting you. How can I come empty-handed?" Then everyone went into the living room, and Ethan was busy decorating the Christmas tree and some decorations. When he saw Li Hung and the old man coming, he quickly went up to greet them, and then Li Hung and Tony helped Ethan and quickly finished decorating various locations. At this time, Ethan asked Li Hung, "Li, why don't I see Dr. Banner? Isn't he going to come over?" Li Hung answered him while wrapping a gift and hanging it on the Christmas tree. "Banner and Samuel are immersed in their research and can't extricate themselves, so they asked me to wait until almost noon to pick them up." It turned out that when the manor was completely cleaned up, Li Hung had already invited Tony, Ethan, and others to visit the manor and let them each choose a room. It was at that time that Tony and Ethan learned that Samuel was also conducting research with Li Hung, and that Li Hung's goal was to create a new serum. So it's not surprising that Ethan asked about Banner and Samuel at this time. When Ethan heard Li Hung say that they were so obsessed with their research that they didn't want to waste any time, he admired their spirit. After a busy morning, several people finally decorated Tony's big villa. Li Hung was too tired to talk. If he didn't want to expose his magic in front of the old man, he would have picked up the magic wand and solved the problem in a few seconds. Instead of running up and down the villa like now, getting very tired. It seems that big villas also have their downsides. Li Hung complained. Then at noon, when it was almost time for dinner, Li Hung took advantage of the old man's inattention and went to the yard to pick up Banner and Samuel. "Banner, Samuel, you're here. Now everyone is here. We can prepare to eat." When they arrived at the restaurant, Pepper said to the old man, "Today is the first time I've seen such a lively Christmas in such a long time in the villa." The old man smiled and said, "It's good to be lively, it's good to be lively." Then everyone sat down at the dining table, where several roasted turkeys were already placed. Everyone was eating and talking happily, and they also clinked glasses and drank a little wine. After that, we finished our meal, gave each other gifts, and spent Christmas happily. Before leaving, Li Hung noticed that Tony didn't say much, but seemed absent-minded. So Li Hung began to wonder if Tony had encountered any problems. After thinking about it, Li Hung finally remembered that in the second part of the movie Iron Man, the plot of Tony Target being poisoned had already appeared at the beginning of the movie. Li Hung compared the time with the present time, and found the reason why Tony was in a bad mood. It should be when he learned that his target was poisoned. However, Li Hung could not be sure, so he planned to observe for a while. Chapter 54. A few days later, when Li Hung was watching short videos, he saw Tony's video, which was about Tony attending the Stark Expo in New York. The video recorded in detail the process of Tony, wearing the iron armor, jumping off a helicopter from a height of 15,000 feet and landing directly in the center of the stage of the venue. When landing, Tony struck a handsome pose to greet the cheers from the audience. Then, under the watchful eyes of the audience, the stage under Tony's feet began to spin, and a mechanical arm extended to help Tony take off his suit. After 2 spins, Tony was left in a suit and bowed to the audience. His high profile and cocky look didn't show at all the bad mental state he was in a few days ago. Tony then began his speech. I didn't say that the long-term peace that the world has finally maintained over the years is because of me. I also didn't say that no one in the world can rise from the ashes like a phoenix like me. I didn't even say that the government can enjoy its leisure time at ease because no one in the world dares to challenge me in my peak form. Tony. 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 After saying these 3 sentences, the audience below was completely excited and shouted Tony's name loudly. Tony then continued. I am not important, you are not important, none of us are important, what is important is inheritance. What do we want to leave for the future? That's why starting next year, outstanding talents from different countries and companies around the world will share their views and create a better future. So, what I want to say is, welcome back to the Stark Industrial Expo. Lee Hung looked at Tony in the video, and after his speech, he started playing a video of his father, Howard Stark, to explain the purpose of holding the expo and the significance of technology. At this time, Lee Hung saw the map model that appeared behind Howard, and he remembered that Tony seemed to have used this map model to discover new elements to replace the target elements and create a new generation of reactors. If he hadn't watched the video now, Lee Hung might not remember what the map looked like. Howard's video was playing on the stage in front, and Tony was testing the toxicity in the blood nearby, which showed that the target was 19% poisoned. At this time, Tony's face no longer had the high spirits just now. Instead, it was filled with sorrow and a thoughtful expression. After leaving the expo, Tony met the woman who came to serve him a subpoena. She said to Tony, "You are ordered to appear before the Senate Armed Services Committee tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock sharp." Tony turned to look at Happy and asked, "How far are we from Washington?" "Washington? 250 miles. As soon as Happy finished speaking, Tony drove off in his sports car. The next morning, in Washington, at the military committee. Because Lee Hung knew that Tony would face a hearing the next day to hand in his combat uniform, he got up early to watch the live broadcast. At the same time, Lee Hung knew that this was already the plot of the second part of Iron Man. After the scene, Tony's answer to the senator, and the gag in the middle, "It's a high-tech prosthesis." Tony's words caused everyone to laugh. But the senator kept emphasizing, "My priority is to deliver the weapon of the suit to the American people." Before he could finish his words, Tony strongly opposed it. "Don't even think about it. I am Iron Man. The suit and I are one. If I hand over the suit, I'm handing over myself." In short, the senator tried every means to get Tony to hand over the suit, but Tony firmly opposed it. When the stalemate reached a stalemate, the senator invited Justin Hammer and James Rhodes, hoping to make them a breakthrough for Tony. Then, while playing the video brought by Rhodes, Tony took the opportunity to hack into the system, and then found out the tests conducted by Justin Hammer in other countries. He wanted to secretly build a battle suit, but it caused huge casualties. Tony's move directly exposed all his past, and he even mocked. It takes 5 to 10 years for each country, but it takes 20 years for Hammer to get results. As the senator and Hammer explained, Tony said, "You want my product? Don't even think about it. But I've done you a big favor. I can maintain world peace by myself." After saying that, he stood up and faced the people behind him, and everyone stood up and applauded Tony. Obviously, Tony won this hearing. Meanwhile, in the polar bear territory, Ivan Vanko was watching Tony on TV, who had won the hearing. At the same time, his hands kept moving. Relying on the information left by his father, Ivan Vanko also rubbed out a small reactor with his hands, and then made a battlesuit with the reactor as the core. He wants to rely on this to find Tony and avenge his father. After Tony returned to the villa from the hearing, he checked his blood again and found that he had been poisoned by 24% of the target element. Jarvis began to say to Tony, "If you continue to wear the suit, your poisoning will only get worse." Tony knew it too, but his personality wouldn't allow him to take off his suit easily. But if he persists in the current state, Tony will need to replace the target element energy plate from time to time and watch the poisoning become more and more serious. Jarvis has already conducted simulations and experiments on all known elements, but none of them can replace the target element, so Tony is running out of time and options. At the same time, Li Heng also prepared to go to Tony's villa, find Tony and tell him something. As soon as Li Heng arrived at Tony's villa, he heard Pepper being angry with Tony. Li Heng asked, "What's wrong, Pepper? Why are you so angry?" When Pepper saw that it was Li Heng who came, he immediately found the person to accuse. "Oh, Li, you're here. It's just right. Can you give me your opinion on whether Tony is right or wrong?" Li Heng saw that Tony was still drinking that green stuff, and he knew that Tony's condition must have gotten worse, but he still said to Pepper, "Oh? Tell me, what did Tony do?" Pepper told him the whole story. "He donated our entire collection of modern art. He donated everything without consulting me. Guess where he donated it? He donated it to the Boy Scouts of the United States." Pepper was very angry. "You know, it took me 10 years to collect and organize those things, and he donated them without even saying anything." Pepper was very angry with Tony. Chapter 55. Looking at Pepper's angry look, Li Heng was thinking about whether to tell Pepper about Tony's poisoning, but Li Heng thought again that Tony didn't tell Pepper, probably because he was afraid that she would worry too much. So Li Heng thought that it would be better not to tell Pepper first. He should wait until Tony's poisoning problem was solved. Then, the impact of what he told Pepper would not be that great. So Li Heng said a few good words for Tony. "It's wrong for Tony to do this. He should have discussed this with you before doing it. However, he did this suddenly. It's very likely that he's been in a bad mood recently, or he's encountered some difficult problem that he can't solve, so he's using this incident to divert his attention." After listening to Li Heng's explanation, Pepper was skeptical, but she didn't continue to be angry. She planned to find a time to have a good talk with Tony about this matter. Li Heng was relieved to see that Pepper was not so angry anymore, and then asked Pepper, "Where's Tony? Where is he? I want to go talk to him about this and see what he means." "Oh, Li, thank you so much. Tony's in the basement." Then Li Heng pointed to the stairs to Pepper and went to find Tony alone. When he arrived in the basement, Tony was looking at a half-length portrait of Iron Man, muttering, "This is modern art, I'm going to hang it up." Then Tony saw Li Heng. "Hey, Li, you're just in time. I was just about to hang up this piece of modern art. Where do you think is a good place to put it?" As soon as Li Heng walked into the door of the laboratory, he heard Tony's question, and then he pointed to the wall next to the TV on the right, which was just right. Then he walked over, took a black and white painting that was placed here before and put it on the ground, then stretched out his hand and motioned Tony to put the portrait of Iron Man here. Tony looked at the wall, then at the portrait in his hand, walked over and hung the portrait on the wall. Then Tony stood back and looked at the effect. "Sure enough, it looks good hanging here." Li Heng thought, "Of course you think it's good, this is the place you chose." But Li Heng would not say that. Of course. The original painting is no longer good, so this one is just right. Then the two men came to Tony's console, and Li Heng saw a half-empty cup on the table with a lot of chlorophyll juice still left. Then Li Heng pointed at the cup and asked Tony, "Is this delicious?" Li Heng knew that the taste of chlorophyll juice was really not very good, so he teased Tony. "Have you started drinking green and pollution-free beverages now?" When Tony saw Li Heng pointing at the cup, he didn't know whether he should tell Li Heng that he was poisoned, but then Li Heng teased him that this was a new drink, so Tony continued with Li Heng's words. "Yes, look, green and healthy." Tony picked up the cup, drank the rest, and then forced himself to control his facial expression. "I suggest you have one, too. How about that? Jarvis, make another one." Then he asked Li Heng, "Why are you here?" Li Heng first watched Tony drink the chlorophyll juice expressionlessly, and couldn't help but give him a thumbs up, and then said, "You're amazing. You finished it without any expression. But I won't drink it. I know how it tastes. I can't say it's terrible, but it's not delicious either." "What? You know what this tastes like?" Li Heng smiled, "Of course I know. Then you asked me just now." "I just asked on purpose." Tony rolled his eyes, "Okay." His idea of tricking Li Heng into having a drink as well failed. Li Heng continued, "Tony, I didn't come to you to ask about chlorophyll juice. I came to give you something better and more effective than chlorophyll juice. As Li Heng spoke, he pointed at Tony's chest, which startled Tony. Oh? What is it? And, you know. Tony asked tentatively. Of course, I know you've been poisoned, otherwise why would I come here? I want to help you. While the two were talking, Pepper came in with a document in her hand and called Tony. The notary is here, come and sign some documents. It turns out that because of the poisoning, Tony has made Pepper the CEO of Stark Group, and now the notary has come with the documents. Li Heng took a look and saw that the person coming was the Black Widow. Natasha didn't expect that the first person she saw when she entered the door was not Tony, but Li Heng. She stood at the door and hesitated for a moment, but still walked in. Li Heng looked at her with amusement and did not expose her immediately. After she completed the notarization and Pepper officially became the CEO of Stark Group, Tony showed his interest in Natasha. Even until Natasha left, Tony was still thinking about making her his secretary. Li Heng looked at Tony and said, "Don't even think about it, she's not ordinary." Tony turned around and said, "Of course, I know. She is indeed very special." As he spoke, he was still thinking about Natasha's figure. "I didn't mean this when I said it was unusual." "Oh? What is that?" "She is a subordinate of the One-Eyed Dragon." Tony's expression suddenly changed. Seeing this, Li Heng asked, "Are you sure she's Nick Fury's subordinate? Which bureau is she from?" "Shield," Li Heng emphasized again. "So, her purpose of coming here is definitely not just to act as a notary." Tony put a hand to his chin as he considered her intentions. "Okay, don't think about it, let me continue to talk about the purpose of my coming here." "Well, yes, you say. I'm here to help you solve the problem of target poisoning." As he spoke, Li Heng took out his wand and released a healing magic. The wand emitted a ray of light and penetrated into Tony's chest. Then Tony felt the dizziness and discomfort caused by the target's poisoning begin to dissipate, and his body was filled with energy again. Tony felt the changes in his body and remembered what Li Heng said. He lifted up his short-sleeved shirt and looked at his chest. "I saw that the curved black spider web-like lines that were around the reactor before began to disappear slowly at a speed visible to the naked eye until they disappeared." "Oh my god!" Tony was incredulous, and then he quickly picked up the instrument to test his poisoning condition. Displayed above, target poisoning 0%. Tony looked at Li Heng happily. "Li, why didn't you tell me earlier that you could do this?" Tony's expression became happy because he thought he was saved. In recent days, Tony has made many attempts, but has not been able to solve the target poisoning. Now Li Heng comes and solves the problem that has troubled Tony for a long time with a simple magic. Chapter 56. But then Li Heng said, "Tony, you can't be happy too soon. My method can only cure you temporarily, but it will relapse in the future. You need a way to solve it completely." "Oh, Li, I know what you mean. However, I have tried all the permutations and combinations, all the elements, and nothing works. Nothing can replace the target element. So I have to live by the target element, but I also die because of the target element." "Tony, you haven't tried them all." Li Heng said to Tony with a mysterious look. "There is another element that exists, but you haven't tried it." "What do you mean? Is there another one I haven't tried?" Tony looked confused. Li Heng nodded, "Yes, that's what your father left for you." "What?" Tony was very surprised and confused when he heard the word father from Li Heng's mouth. "Your father left you some things, but he placed them in the shield he founded. He will also leave you guidance on the new element that can help you replace the target element. However, I think you should wait. In a few days, the One-Eyed Nick Fury will come to see you and he will give the things to you." Tony was very excited when he heard what Li Heng said, but then Li Heng asked him to wait for a while until Nick Fury came to see him in a few days. But now Tony really doesn't want to wait any longer. He finally got some good news, but the waiting time made him even more uncomfortable. So Tony said directly to Li Heng, "Li, you'd better tell me directly. I can't wait any longer." Considering Tony's current physical condition and his personality, Li Heng finally told Tony. "In a few days, Nick Fury will bring over a box containing things left by your father. Inside, you will find that he left you some guidance about the new elements. You should know that your father cares about you and loves you very much, but he is not very good at expressing himself, so he left you a video for you to watch." After hearing what Li Heng said, Tony suddenly fell into memories. He recalled in his mind the details of how his father treated him in the past, which he had not noticed before. Li Hung added. From Howard's video, we can see that he hid the new elements in the 3D model he made, which was the display map model of the Stark Industries Expo at the time. Li Hung told everything he knew in one breath, and after hearing this, Tony was ready to find out where the model was immediately and then set out to get it. Li Hung took Tony to the company and took away the model that Tony had kept in the office for a long time, which was covered with dust. When the model was brought back to the villa, Tony looked at the model on the table, not knowing how to start looking for the information his father left behind. After looking at the model for a while, Tony finally thought of a solution, so he stood up and prepared to take action. At this moment, Li Hung was also ready to remind Tony. Tony, why don't we start by scanning this model? Tony snapped his fingers. Yes, I thought so too. Jarvis, scan it, I need an operational projection screen. Okay, sir. Then a beam of light swept across the model, and soon, an identical scanned digital model appeared in front of him. 1974, Stark Industries Expo, model scan completed. Tony stretched out his hands and moved the projected model to the center of the wider hall behind him. This would not only facilitate his subsequent operations, but also help him see the surroundings and bottom of the model more conveniently. Next, Tony began his operation. How many buildings are there in total? Including the Belgian waffle stand. Oh, I'm just asking, show me. Then Tony stood the digital model up in front of him, looked at the building in the middle and asked. What does this look like? Like atoms, sir. Then the nucleus should be here. As he spoke, Tony pointed to the location of the nucleus, which was the most central building. As he pointed his finger there, Jarvis also changed the building into the shape of an atomic nucleus. Looking at the sphere in front of him, Tony suddenly said. Get rid of the walkways, get rid of the landscaping, the bushes, the trees, the parking lots, the exits, the entrances. Use the pavilion as a framework, make up the protons and neutrons. As Tony said, Jarvis executed it step by step. Until the end, everything was integrated onto the sphere of the atomic nucleus as Tony said. During this process, Tony held his chin with his hand and waited. Before long, a new type of element appeared in front of Tony's eyes. Tony used both hands to enlarge it to its maximum size until it filled the entire room. Sitting inside the model, Tony looked at this new element, thinking, and then said. You've been dead for 20 years, and you still want to teach me? Jarvis' voice sounded at this time. The new element you discovered should be able to replace the target element currently used. Tony shrunk the model and held it in his hand. Thank you, Father. It's a pity that there is no way to synthesize this element. Hearing Jarvis' words, Tony laughed, then looked at Li Hung next to him and said. In that case, let's prepare for a major renovation. It's time to do the manual labor. After saying that, Tony went upstairs to find tools and start renovating the house. When seeing Tony picking up a sledgehammer and preparing to smash the wall, Li Hung said. Tony, maybe you don't have to do this. Tony punched the wall and said. Li, I need to do this. In order to synthesize new elements, I need to renovate my home. Li Hung paused for a moment before continuing. That's not what I meant, but... Before he finished speaking, Li Hung took out his wand and cast magic at the wall that Tony was smashing with a sledgehammer, and then a square hole appeared. Tony hit nothing with the hammer, then stared in a daze at the sudden gap in the wall. Li Hung secretly suppressed his laughter and said. See, this is what I mean. You don't have to spend time and effort to smash the wall yourself. My method is simpler and more convenient. Tony stood up straight, rested his hands on the wooden handle of the sledgehammer, then looked at Li Hung and said. Wow, it seems like you are very suitable for the job of demolishing the house. Hearing Tony's words, Li Hung rolled his eyes and said. Do you still need my help? Yes, come here quickly. Then Tony took Li Hung to walk through all the places that needed to be renovated, and used magic to build a particle accelerator. Chapter 57. With the help of Li Hung, Tony quickly built a particle accelerator in the villa, and he didn't have to work as hard as in the movies. Then Tony asked Jarvis to turn off all the lights, put on glasses, and install the prism in the acceleration tube. Activate the prism accelerator. Following Tony's order, Jarvis turned on the accelerator, and the particles accelerated rapidly and soon reached their limit. Sir, we have reached our highest limit. At this time, Jarvis reminded Tony that he needed to proceed to the next step quickly. Tony stepped forward, held the wheel with both hands, and tried to turn it, but his hands were too slippery after trying twice. Li Heng stepped forward and said, "Let me help you. Tell me what to do? How far should I turn it?" At this time, Tony let go of his hand and let Li Heng handle it. He said beside him, "See that device on the table in the middle? The triangle inside is the new reactor core. You need to rotate it so that the particles can hit it." After hearing what Tony said, Li Heng started to turn it. Then, the blue light split the wall and everything in half as Li Heng turned it. Until the blue light hit the device in the middle, the triangular reactor core began to absorb the reaction. Seeing that it was almost done, Tony stepped forward and slapped the switch, turning off the particle accelerator. Afterwards, Li Heng saw the reactor emitting a bright light. Obviously, the production of the new reactor core was successful. "See, it's very simple." At this time Tony started talking again, "It's not difficult to synthesize new elements." Then Li Heng and Tony came to the middle. Tony used tweezers to clamp out the core of the triangle. Jarvis said, "Sir, you have created a new element." Then, Tony placed the core into the new reactor he made. After the reactor beeped a few times, Jarvis congratulated him. "Sir, the reactor has accepted the new core. I will test the reactor later." At the same time, Ivan Vanko, who was in the territory of the polar bear, asked someone to make him a passport of the United States and a plane ticket to the United States. Taking what he made, Ivan Vanko set out for the beautiful country. Li Heng looked at the new reactor and said to Tony, "Congratulations, Tony, your target element poisoning problem can be completely solved." At this time Tony stood up and said happily, "Li, thank you for telling me these things. Otherwise, I wouldn't have discovered what my father left for me." Tony then handed the reactor to Jarvis and asked him to test it to see what the data of the new reactor was. Then Tony said to Li Heng, "Li, I originally thought I was hopeless, so I planned to go racing for fun. But now that a new reactor has been built, do you want to go racing with me to celebrate?" "Oh? Then of course I'll go." Li Heng thought of the whip rope that appeared on Tony's racing track, so he agreed and prepared to go with Tony. "Okay, wait for me, I'm going to take a shower and change clothes." Just when Tony went to take a shower, Li Heng met Ethan, who asked Li Heng, "Li, what did you and Tony do to mess up the house like this?" Looking at the messy and dilapidated room, Ethan asked, "Oh, we just built a new reactor. As for the room becoming like this, that's easy." As he spoke, Li Heng used his magic wand, restore to its original state. Then Ethan looked at the house in surprise. All the broken things began to reverse and return to their previous undamaged state. "Oh, Li, is your magic really that good? It's really amazing. I am really getting more and more curious about magic." Hearing Ethan say this, Li Heng also thought that since Ethan had become interested in magic, he might as well find a time to take Ethan to Kamartaj to visit Ancient One and see if Ethan could also learn some magic. Thinking of this, Li Heng felt that he could find time to go for a trip after Tony came back from racing. But it's better not to tell Ethan for now, lest he be unable to learn magic and go from hope to disappointment, which would be very uncomfortable. So Li Heng asked Ethan, "Tony is going to go racing, do you want to come and see him?" Ethan thought about it, maybe it was because he was too bored in the house, so Ethan decided to go watch Tony's car race with Li Heng. So they flew to the Paris Hotel in Monaco with Tony and Pepper, and Happy also went with them. Li Heng noticed that Happy was holding a silver and red briefcase in his hand, and thought that this was the Mark V made by Tony. However, it was probably because the Mark V was only portable, and it took too long to put on and its armor was too thin that Tony gave up the idea and did not make a new one. After walking into the first floor lobby of the Paris Hotel, Tony greeted some acquaintances and then met Justin Hammer. "Hi Tony, how are you?" But it was obvious that Tony didn't want to pay attention to Justin Hammer. Finally, he had no choice but to accept the interview with the reporter brought by Justin Hammer. While answering the questions, Tony walked away from them while talking. But the reporter obviously would not give up easily and kept chasing Tony to ask questions. At this time, the person next to him reminded Tony, "Mr. Stark, your table is ready." Taking this opportunity, Tony finally broke away from the reporter's endless questions and went to his desk. Li Heng and Ethan looked at Tony from the side and said, "It seems that when you are a celebrity, you will not be able to control your own behavior when you are out there. Hearing Li Heng's sigh, Ethan agreed, that's right, especially when he is the only heir to Stark Industries. After saying that, the two of them laughed, picked up their glasses and took a sip. Not long after, Tony took the opportunity to go to the toilet and changed into a racing suit. Amidst the crowd's pursuit, he climbed over the small guardrail next to him and entered the racetrack. At this time, the live broadcast of the game was played on the TV in the hotel, and Tony was interviewed. If you own a racing car, you want to race it. Otherwise, why do you own a racing car? After he finished speaking, the audience cheered. At this time, Pepper noticed Tony preparing to race on TV. She was surprised, and then came over to find Li Heng and Ethan who were drinking. Did you guys know Tony was going to have a car race? Yes, he told us. What, but he didn't tell me. He can't go racing right now. I need to find Happy. Chapter 58. At this moment, Tony on TV had already sat in the cockpit of the racing car and was ready to start. Seeing Pepper's reaction, she turned around and went outside to look for Happy. Li Heng quickly chased after her and said, Pepper, Pepper, don't worry. Tony is in good health now. There's nothing wrong with him. If you're worried, we can go over and take a look. Ethan also said at this time. Then let's go over and take a look together. Don't worry, Pepper. With Li Heng here, Tony will be fine. After hearing what the two people said, Pepper finally felt relieved. Then a few people found Happy outside and asked him to drive to the racetrack. On the racetrack, as the starting signal lights came on, many racing cars rushed out. Tony was among them, wearing a blue and white racing suit and driving a blue and white racing car. What he didn't know was that just outside the protective net on the sidelines, Ivan Vanko, wearing orange staff clothes, followed the staff into the racetrack. He walked straight into the racing track. Tony, who was still passionately overtaking, was unaware of it. However, the audience at the scene and the audience in front of the TV noticed something was wrong and stopped what they were doing to pay attention to the development of the scene. Ivan Vanko stood in the middle of the runway, opened his clothes in front of his chest, revealing what was underneath. It was a thing exactly the same as Tony's old reactor. Then Ivan Vanko swung out two whips from his hands, connected them to the energy of the reactor, the whips began to glow, and his clothes were burned. Just at this moment a racing car drove over. Ivan Vanko aimed his whip at the car and split it into two parts. The car rolled up due to inertia and hit the guardrail. The audience was frightened when they saw this scene. At this time, Pepper in the car saw the situation on the field, so he looked at Li Heng. Li, can you go help Tony? Then he asked Happy to hand the briefcase to Li Heng. Li Heng nodded and said, Okay, I'll go over first. Don't go onto the runway. It's very dangerous inside. I'll just go in. After taking the briefcase, Li Heng teleported directly to the runway. Just at this moment Tony drove his racing car in front of Ivan Vanko, and was also whipped by Ivan Vanko, and both he and the car flew up into the air. Pepper exclaimed when she saw this scene and was very worried about Tony, but she felt relieved after seeing what happened next. Li Heng, who had just appeared on the runway, saw Tony flying up, so he didn't care about anything else and directly used the levitation technique to reduce the impact of Tony and the car, and then slowly put Tony and the car on the ground together. Li Heng walked forward and pulled Tony out of the cab. Hey, man, what's going on? Seeing that it was Li Heng's face, Tony, who didn't understand the situation, asked. Li Heng replied in a calm tone, Oh, it's one of your enemies who came here to seek revenge on you and wants to kill you here. What? My enemy? Want to kill me? Yuning's face was full of disbelief. Li Heng raised his chin towards Ivan Vanko and motioned Tony to look over. Tony turned around and saw Ivan Vanko walking towards him with his long braid in one hand. What's the matter? I don't even know him. But at this time, the whip he swung was about to fall on the heads of the two men, so Li Heng took Tony and hid to the side. Don't think about not knowing him. You should put this on quickly. As he spoke, Li Heng handed the briefcase Mark V to Tony. When Tony saw that Li Heng had brought all this, he stepped on it and the briefcase opened. Then Tony put his two hands into the hands of the outstretched battlesuit, then picked up the battlesuit and put it on his body, and the battlesuit was automatically put on Tony. The audience in the stands cheered when they saw Iron Man. At this time Tony said to Li Heng, Li, let me deal with this enemy. You stay by my side and support me. I want to see who is so confident that he would come to me directly. Tony then stepped forward, facing the whip directly, and raised his left hand, ready to fire a palm cannon. Who knew that the whip would directly whip Tony, hitting his left hand and preventing the shot from being fired. Tony tried to use his other hand, but was hit by the whip again. After finally finding an opportunity to release the palm cannon at Hwipsuo blocked it with his whip. The whip directly tied Tony's right hand with one whip and his neck with the other, and then threw Tony over the shoulder and onto the racing car next to him. Finally, Tony reacted, then stepped forward step by step, and kept wrapping the whip around himself. Then he approached Ivan Kovic, walked to his side, punched him twice, and also gave him a shoulder throw. Ivan Vanko didn't have a full-body battlesuit like Tony, so he was knocked down hard by Tony and couldn't stand up and continue fighting. So Tony walked forward and took off the reactor from his chest, and the light of the two whips disappeared because of the loss of energy. At this time, the security guards finally arrived at the scene and wanted to carry Ivan Vanko away. He even spat a mouthful of blood at Tony, and said while laughing, You lose, Stark." Tony looked at the reactor in his hand, crushed it with force, and then said to Li Hung, "It seems that I have to investigate this enemy of mine carefully." Justin Hammer, who was watching the live broadcast on TV in a Paris hotel, had a different expression on his face. Then, Tony came to the prison where Ivan Vanko was imprisoned, ready to talk to him about the reactor. "It's quite advanced technology, but the speed is a bit low. You can double the speed and let the anti-energy pass through the ionized plasma pipe. It's very useful, but the efficiency is not high. But it's a pretty good imitation," Tony said as he sat down. "I don't understand. As long as you debug it, you can make a lot of money with it, or just sell it on the black market." At this time, Ivan Vanko said, "Your family is thieves and butchers. You are like every sinner, you want to rewrite your history and forget the lives that the Starks have killed." At this time, Tony heard Ivan Vanko say that he was a thief, so he asked, "Speaking of thieves, where did you steal your design drawings from?" "My father, Anton Vanko." Tony shook his head, indicating that he didn't know him. "I haven't heard of it." Ivan Vanko said, "You are alive because of my father." Tony hit back bluntly, "I'm not dead because you tried to kill me and failed." Then Tony left the prison, and Li Hung and the others flew back to New York together. Chapter 59. Just as Tony left, Ivan Vanko in prison received a note while eating, which read, "Please enjoy mashed potatoes." Then he found an unused time bomb in the mashed potatoes, and the prison guards sent in a man of similar build and with the same prison uniform number to serve as a scapegoat. Ivan Vanko knocked down the scapegoat in a few moves, then picked up the key dropped by the prison guard, activated the bomb and ran away. Immediately afterwards, the time bomb exploded, causing chaos, and Ivan Vanko was blindfolded and taken away. It turned out that Justin Hammer rescued him from prison with the purpose of hoping that Ivan Vanko would cooperate with him to fight against Tony Stark. Afterwards, Justin brought Ivan Vanko to his Iron Soldier manufacturing factory, and handed the software that controlled the Iron Soldiers to Ivan Vanko, making him the chief engineer in charge of Iron Soldiers. Tony returned home and asked Jarvis to look through the information, and finally found Anton Vanko's name. Anton Vanko, a Soviet physicist, defected to the United States in 1963, but was accused of being a spy and expelled from the country in 1967. His son Ivan Vanko is also a physicist. At this time, Rhodes came to find Tony and asked Tony to control public opinion to prevent the army from rushing into the house and snatching Tony's iron armor. However, at this time Tony was immersed in the process of finding more information about Anton Vanko, so he didn't want to pay much attention to Rhodes. At this time, Li Hung said, "Tony, I actually know a little bit about him." Seeing Tony turned his head and looked at him, Li Hung continued, "Anton Vank worked with your father Howard before. They completed the reactor together, but your father wanted something bigger, while Anton Vank wanted to make money. So they had a dispute, and your father expelled Anton Vank from the country." After hearing what Li Hung said this time, Tony finally understood what happened that year. However, knowing the truth at that time, Tony did not think his father did anything wrong, so he said to Li Hung, "Oh, it seems I finally share the same opinion as him." After saying that, Tony took Rhodes and Li Hung upstairs to attend his birthday party. He didn't really care about the military or anyone else coveting his Iron Man suit. At the birthday party, Tony directly gave Rhodes a set of Iron Man suit, making him the second person after Tony who could wear the suit. On the surface, Ivan Vanko agreed to Justin Hammer's request and made Iron Soldiers for him, but in fact he was secretly perfecting his whip armor and secretly took control of the Iron Soldiers. Ivan Vanko also called Tony and said on the phone that he would return to Tony everything that the Stark family had done to their family 40 years ago within 40 minutes. Hearing Ivan Vanko say this, Tony immediately remembered the expo that was being held, so he quickly asked Jarvis to assemble the suit, and Tony prepared to use the new reactor directly. Then Tony wanted Li Heng's help to get to the expo site quickly. Li Heng said it was no problem, they could set off as long as they waited for Tony's suit to be assembled. At the expo, it was Justin Hammer's turn to hold a press conference. He first criticized Tony, saying that Tony was unwilling to disclose his Iron Man suit technology, which was unfair and wrong. Next, Justin Hammer began to introduce the steel soldiers brought by his company. Then various versions of steel soldiers from the Navy, Army, and Air Force rose up from under the stage. While Justin Hammer was still excitedly introducing the characters, Ivan Vanko had already secretly controlled the Iron Soldier. At this time, Hammer invited Rhodes to come up and drive his battlesuit onto the stage to show everyone that besides Tony, there are other people who can drive the armor. The people below were stunned when they saw this scene. But the next moment, Li Heng brought Tony to the side of the stage. While Tony was attracting people's attention, Li Heng went straight to the audience and found an empty seat, ready to see what Tony would do. Tony flew directly onto the stage, and immediately there was warm applause from the audience, which was in sharp contrast to Rhodes' appearance just now. Tony landed in a handsome posture, then came to Rhodes' side and said, "Hey, brother, I didn't give you the battle suit so that you can help my opponent." "Oh, no, Hammer can't be considered my opponent." "So, what benefit did he give you?" As Tony spoke, he stepped forward and stood with Rod, waved to them, greeted and responded to the excited people. At the same time, Rhodes also explained, "Tony, I'm just following orders, don't be impulsive here. Brother, we are in big trouble. Everyone is in danger now. We must let them out. You must believe me." Just when Rhodes was about to ask for clarification, Tony said directly, "I think Hammer and Vank have a collaboration." Rhodes was stunned for a moment. Wang Ke is still alive? Didn't his prison explode? Well, he must have run away. He was just talking to me on the phone. After that, Tony walked up to Hammer and asked him directly, "Where is he?" Hammer gave a puzzled look. "What?" Tony asked again, "Where is Ivan Vanko?" But Justin Hammer was clearly playing dumb. "What are you doing here, Tony?" Just then, Rhodes exclaimed, "Wow! Wow! Wow!" A bunch of red words appeared on the display panel in front of him, and then the control of the suit was taken away. Then the machine gun on the shoulder of the suit was directly activated and aimed at Tony in front, and then Hammer's steel soldiers also moved together, pointing their guns at Tony. Tony asked Rod, "Is that you?" "Rhodes, it's not me, I can't move, I'm locked." "Go, he has control of the entire system." Hearing this, Tony took off and flew outside. The people in the audience also noticed something was wrong and began to hide. Ivan Vanko controlled all the Iron Soldiers and fired at Tony who was flying out. The bullet hit the glass ceiling of the exhibition, and then the glass shattered and fell down. At this time, people had not completely hidden yet. When Li Heng saw that someone would be injured, he directly used the power of space to teleport all the fallen glass fragments to the corner of the venue, forming a large pile. Chapter 60. Li Heng did not go to help Tony directly, because he knew that Tony was basically fine, so he waited until the venue was safe before finding Pepper and asking them to evacuate. When Tony flew out of the venue, Vank controlled Rhodes and all the Iron Soldiers to take off and chase after Tony. Tony saw a large group of Iron Soldiers following behind him, so he said to Jarvis, "Jarvis, enter the system, I want to control him." "Yes, sir." At this time, Rhodes suddenly informed Tony, Tony, I've got my target, I've got my target." "Who is the target?" "It's you." As soon as he finished speaking, the machine gun began to fire wildly. In order to avoid it, Tony flew out of a spiral trajectory in the sky. Rhodes was still reminding him, "Tony, I'm right behind you." Tony was flying in the sky to avoid the pursuit behind him, and new situations also emerged in the venue. Those Iron Soldiers who could fly flew away to chase Tony, leaving behind the iron soldiers who could not fly and began their actions one after another. Seeing this, Li Heng used the power of space to cut the steel soldiers into small pieces and piled them together in the corner in order to stop them. At this time, there was a little kid nearby, wearing an Iron Man mask. He raised his hand and made the same palm cannon firing motion as Tony, aiming at an iron soldier. Just as the iron soldier was about to shoot the child, a lady nearby screamed loudly, which caught Li Heng's attention. So he went straight to the child and took care of the iron soldier as well. The lady ran up, holding the child in her arms. Peter, Peter, are you okay? After checking that the child was okay, she looked at Li Heng. Thank you very much, sir, for saving my nephew. Li Heng looked at her familiar face and the name she called out, and thought, could this be Peter Parker? But since there were still things to do, Li Heng said, you're welcome ma'am, please take the child and leave here as soon as possible. Then, as she expressed her gratitude, Li Heng teleported away. Aunt May, he disappeared. The child was very surprised, but May could still accept it. After all, she had just seen how Li Heng handled the iron soldiers, so she instead advised the child. Peter, don't tell anyone what you saw today. Okay, Aunt May, I'll remember that. When the iron soldier was out of control, Justin Hammer ran backstage and asked the technicians what happened. The software has been changed, which means Ivan Vanko has completely controlled all the iron soldiers. After cleaning up the scene, Li Heng saw that Pepper did not leave as he said, but followed Justin Hammer to the backstage, so Li Heng followed. When he got backstage, Li Heng heard Pepper questioning Hammer what was going on, but Hammer only wanted to get Pepper away and was ready to let the security guard take action. Li Heng came directly behind Hammer, grabbed his neck, and asked. Where is Ivan Vanko? What? How do you know? Hammer obviously didn't know why Li Heng asked him about Ivan Vanko's hiding place in such a certain tone. Don't worry about that. Just tell me the location. As Li Heng spoke, he increased the strength of his hands. Li Heng's enhanced physical strength was not something Hammer could endure, so he quickly told him the location of Vank. He is in my company. After receiving the news, Li Heng first took Pepper to a safe place and handed her over to Happy to take care of her. Then Li Heng went to Justin Hammer's company to find Ivan Vanko. Meanwhile, Tony in the sky received some bad news. Sir, it is not possible to reboot remotely. This also means that Tony has no way to fight for control. At this time, Tony received a call from Li Heng. Hey, Li, excuse me, I'm a bit busy right now and can't talk to you about anything. Oh? Tony, don't you want to take control of those iron soldiers? Tony was surprised to hear Li Heng's words. Li, you didn't lie to me? How did you do it? Oh, I told you, I have a friend. It turned out that Li Heng had just sent Pepper to Happy, and did not go to look for Vank immediately. Instead, he called the manor and asked Xiao Zhuzh to see if he could solve the problem of control over the iron soldiers. After a short while of searching, little Zhuzh said. Master, I can take control. Although his program is one of the most powerful on Earth, it is still inferior to mine. After hearing what Xiao Zhuzh said, Li Heng said. Okay, then just take control. Then Li Heng called Tony and explained the situation. Wow, Li, your friend's skills are amazing. Li Heng was enjoying Tony's flattery when little Zhuzh said. Master, there is another artificial intelligence vying for control of Rhodes's suit. Should I? Li Heng thought for a moment, then said to Tony. Tony, I've already dealt with all the other scum. The only thing left is control of Rod's battlesuit. How about you fight Rod to attract Ivan Vanko's attention while I find his hiding place and kill him directly? Tony listened to Li Heng's words and looked back. Sure enough, all the steel soldiers fell to the ground, leaving only Rhodes's battlesuit still chasing Tony. So Tony said. Okay, Li, let me take care of Rod, you go find Ivan Vanko. After saying that, Tony turned around and fired a palm cannon at Rhodes. Rhodes, who was unable to dodge, was knocked to the ground by Tony from the sky. The two men fell into the small garden, confronted each other, and then a war began. After hanging up the phone, Li Heng went directly to Justin Hammer's company. Ivan Vanko didn't know that Li Heng had come to find him. He became excited when he saw Tony turned around to fight. He controlled Rhodes's battlesuit and fought with Tony in the garden. Li Heng came to Justin Hammer's company, ignored the locked company door, and teleported directly in. The security guards in the corridor saw Li Heng coming in, so they surrounded him and prepared to capture the intruder Li Heng. Li Heng took care of the security guards in no time and then walked inside. At this time, Ivan Vanko inside also discovered Li Heng's arrival, so he quickly activated the armor he had made for himself and put it on. Chapter 61. Ivan Vanko was about to escape from the place he had prepared in advance, but just as he was about to push open the door, he heard a noise behind him, followed by a person's voice. Ivan Vanko, are you in such a hurry to leave? You'd better stay. It turned out that Li Heng was teleported directly into the house, and saw Ivan Vanko who was about to run away, so he spoke up to ask him to stay and not disturb Tony and his good friend from their passionate double fight. As a result, Li Heng saw that after hearing his words, Ivan Vanko not only did not look back, but ran out even faster without stopping. There was no other choice, Li Heng could only teleport him back in. When Ivan Vanko saw himself reappear in the house, he ran outside again in disbelief, and was teleported back by Li Heng again. Finally, he didn't run away this time, because he knew that he had to get rid of Li Heng first before he would have a chance to leave here and seek revenge on Tony. So Ivan Vanko activated his new armor and swung the electrified whip with both hands, making it buzz. Li Heng looked at his appearance and said, "Oh, so you've been preparing for such a long time, and you're still using your whip as a weapon? Even so, you still want to seek revenge on Tony. It's really a fantasy." After saying that, Li Heng also felt that there was no point in attacking Ivan Vanko here, so when Ivan Vanko was about to attack him with a whip, he simply cut off both of his whips. Ivan Vanko looked at the broken whip and wanted to go forward and fight with his fists, but Li Heng dodged his fist and slapped him on the neck with his backhand. Because his neck was exposed, and Li Heng's strength was enhanced, Ivan Vanko's eyes went black from this palm strike. Then Li Heng hit him a few more times, breaking his neck and killing him. After dealing with Ivan Vanko, Li Heng came to his console and asked Xiao Zuj to release the control of Rhodes' armor through the console. In the garden outside, Rhodes' armor, who was fighting with Tony vigorously, suddenly had its red eyes go out. At this moment, Rhodes was also thrown out by Tony. Tony stood up and was about to go check on Rod when he received another call from Li Heng. "Tony, Rhodes' armor has been restarted. Rhodes can control the armor again." "Oh!" Tony exclaimed, "Thank you, Li, and your friends. You saved my friend." Tony also asked, "How are you doing over there, where is Ivan Vanko?" "Oh, Ivan Vanko died accidentally during the resistance. So everything here has been resolved. Okay, let me check on Rod's condition, then we'll see you later." After saying that, Li Heng hung up the phone, and then asked Xiao Zuj to help him find the child he had just rescued and his elders. Now that he was free, Li Heng was going to ask if that was the Spider-Man who had not grown up yet. Little Zuj said, "Master, we have found the people you mentioned. They are outside the exhibition venue and seem to be preparing to go home." After hearing what Xiao Zuj said, Li Heng determined their position and went straight to their side. Peter Parker was being held in May's arms, so he immediately saw Li Heng appearing behind him, and he shouted, "Wow, it's you! May, look, it's him!" May was startled when she heard Peter's sudden shout, thinking that there was danger again, so she ran forward quickly and turned her head to look. She stopped when she saw that the person coming was Li Heng. "Excuse me, I was scared by Peter, what's your name?" Li Heng stepped forward and said. "It's okay, my name is Li Heng, I just came to see if you are safe now." Then he looked at Peter. "Is your name Peter?" Peter saw Li Heng talking to him, and nodded excitedly, and Li Heng continued. "Peter, you were very brave today. You stood up to face the enemy bravely. But I want to tell you that no matter what the situation is, you must first ensure your own safety before actively fighting the enemy. Otherwise, how can you fight if you can't even guarantee your own safety?" After listening to Li Heng's words, Peter nodded, indicating that he had remembered it. "Yeah, good. Just like tonight, if I hadn't found you, you would have been hurt by the Iron Soldier. So, what's the first priority? Keep yourself safe." Li Heng touched Peter's head, "Very good." Then he looked at May, ready to chat and see if this was the Peter Parker that Li Heng had in mind. May said when she saw Li Heng looking at her. "Oh, sir, thank you. Thank you for helping me educate Peter about safety. Since the death of his parents and uncle, I have been increasingly lacking in safety education for him. Well, after hearing May say this, Li Heng was certain that this was the Spider-Man in the Marvel world, but he had not grown up yet and had not mutated into Spider-Man. After talking to them for a few words and exchanging phone numbers, Li Heng separated from them and prepared to find Pepper and Happy and wait for Tony to come back. Tony checked roads and found no problem. Then the two of them faced the Iron Soldier that Ivan Vanko had recently activated and was chasing after them. However, due to the lack of Ivan Vanko's command and the fact that Jarvis was also able to invade, Tony and Rhodes quickly took care of all the Steel Soldiers, then returned to the outside of the venue and reunited with Li Heng and the others. When Pepper saw Tony, she ran up to him and hugged him tightly, while Tony comforted Pepper. "I'm fine, don't be nervous, relax." Then Pepper said, "Oh my god, I can't stand it anymore. I never know if you are going to die or if you are going to go back to the company. I quit." Tony was stunned when he heard Pepper's words. "What did you say? You're quitting? That's surprising." "Well, not that surprising. You don't have to make excuses." "I'm not making excuses. You deserve better. You've always taken good care of me." As the two talked, they moved closer and closer, and then kissed each other as if no one was around. Rhodes, who was standing next to them, looked at them, then glanced at Li Heng and said directly, "You two are kissing like two seals fighting over grapes." Li Heng nodded in agreement. Then Tony looked at Li Heng to ease the embarrassment. "Hey, Li, thank you and your friends for today. Let me meet your friends someday and express my gratitude in person." Li Heng said, "Oh, you will see him soon." Chapter 62. Then Tony looked at Rhodes again, "You hit him really hard just now." "Thanks, you too." Then Rhodes paused and continued. "It's like this, my car was blown up, I want to borrow your iron armor first, and use it in various places, okay?" Tony laughed. "No, you can't stand up for others anymore. Don't even think about it. I'm not asking you again." With that, Rhodes stood up, put on his mask, and flew away. Tony and Li Heng returned to the villa and were finally able to take a break. Just as they called Ethan and had a drink together, an uninvited guest came to the villa. When Li Heng saw that the person who came in was actually Black Braised Egg, but Nick Fury pretended not to know Li Heng, walked straight to Tony, and took out 2 documents and handed them to Tony. Avengers Preliminary Report. Tony was about to open it and take a look when Nick Fury said, "I don't recommend you to look at that report first. As for this one, it's our assessment report on you. You can take a look at this." Tony took the assessment report and started reading it. Personality analysis, Stark often behaves impulsively. That was just before. I was self-destructive. I was dying. Come on, aren't we all like that? Typical, narcissist? I agree. Avengers Recruitment Assessment, Iron Man, okay. Seeing this, Tony was ready to close the file, but Nick Fury asked him to continue reading. So Tony continued to look down. Tony Stark, not recommended? That doesn't make sense. Then Tony Barabara explained a lot. Although Nick Fury didn't show any expression on his face when he heard Tony's words, he still felt that his provocation had worked, which was a good thing. So he said, "It is based on this that we have decided that you can only serve as an advisor at this time." Hearing this and Nick Fury's words, Tony and Li Heng both laughed. Tony said, "You can't afford me." Li Heng said, "Okay, Nick Fury, stop provoking me. It's useless. And don't try to target Tony again. We will not join your alliance." Tony agreed and said, "Yes, our ideas are different from yours, so what we do is also different. However, I still need your help in a small way." Hearing this, Li Heng already knew what Tony was planning. Sure enough, a few days later, at the award ceremony in Washington, D.C., the senator who had wanted to take Tony's suit away was invited to present the awards to Tony and Rhodes. Seeing the reluctant faces of the congressmen on the stage, Li Heng wanted to laugh. After Tony and the others finished taking the photos, they said to Li Heng, "Hey, Li, actually you should have been included in this award, but you didn't agree." Li Heng said, "Okay, Tony, I'm not interested in this kind of award. I might as well continue to increase my popularity through short videos." It turned out that after this incident, someone finally filmed Li Heng's action of rescuing people and posted it online. Now some people have started to become Li Heng's fans. This directly increased Li Heng's reputation by a large margin, and it was almost reaching 100. Li Heng watched his reputation slowly increase every day, and he looked forward to the new gift packages more and more. Finally, 2 days later, the system's voice finally rang. Ding! Congratulations to the host, your reputation value has reached 100, and you have received a new gift package. It has been put into the system space, please check it. Hearing the system's voice, Li Heng couldn't wait to take out a new gift package from the space, and then as usual, he washed his hands and face first, then returned to his seat and slowly opened the gift package. There was a flash of light, and a plastic package filled with small blue pills was left in its place. Looking at the packet of pills, Li Heng was in a dilemma whether to pick it up or not. After a fierce ideological struggle, Li Heng finally picked up the packet of pills. Then asked the system. System, what is this? How come it is packaged so simply? It was just wrapped in a transparent plastic and given to me like this. The system ignored Li Heng's complaints and instead introduced the packet of pills. Although this pack of pills looks simple, its effect is absolutely top-notch. Hearing the system say this, Li Heng also became curious and wanted to know what this thing was. This pill is made by combining the NZT48 and CPH4 we obtained. A small amount of CPH48 is added to each NZT4 pill, which is how we get the blue pill you see. It has the potential to activate the brain and stimulate the brain's nerve endings within 30 seconds to stimulate the brain, and then permanently increase the amount of brain usage a little bit. Oh, I understand. It means that you can become smarter after using it, right? Li Heng suddenly realized. You can think so, but I want to tell you that this kind of drugs are generally addictive. If you only take one pill, it's fine. But if you keep taking it, it will be difficult for you to get rid of your dependence on the drug. After hearing what the system said, Li Heng realized that this medicine should not be taken too much. Each person can only take one pill at most. When Li Heng was about to take out a piece and eat it to try, he suddenly thought of something and asked the system. Will there be any bad reactions if I eat it now? Is there anything wrong? Host, please rest assured that the items produced by the system will not have any quality problems. As long as you only take one tablet, it will not be addictive. After listening to what the system said, Li Heng decided to give it a try first. It was not because he did not trust the system, but he wanted to see the effect with his own eyes before he could be truly assured. So Li Heng went out, found a monkey in the suburbs, fed it a small blue pill, and waited for a few hours. When he saw that the monkey had no bad reaction, he went back home, took out a pill and ate it. Not long after eating, Li Heng felt sleepy, so he lay down on the bed and fell asleep, sleeping until the afternoon. When he woke up again, Li Heng not only did not feel uncomfortable at all, but he also felt that his mind was very flexible. The knowledge he had learned in his previous life resurfaced and he remembered it very firmly. Then he tried to learn something new and was surprised to find that his learning ability had been enhanced. But for Li Heng, these are the only changes. System, are these the only changes you said would make you smarter? Of course, for you, that's all. What does it mean to me? Because you don't use your brain to think often, your feeling is not obvious. If you use your brain to think often and take this drug, the improvement will be very significant. Li Heng understood what the system said, which meant that he was only good at fighting and was not a professional researcher. This kind of medicine would be more helpful to researchers. It seems that I have to go to the manor. Li Heng said, touching his chin. Chapter 63. Li Heng came to the manor and found Samuel and Banner who were busy with research, and then called them to the underground conference room. Samuel and Banner didn't know what Li Heng was going to do, so after sitting down, they looked at Li Heng, wanting to know what he was going to do. The two people who were interrupted in their study stared at Li Heng. He also felt unnatural, so he coughed. Li Heng said, I called you here because I have something to tell you. I got a pill that works very well. As he spoke, Li Heng took out 2 pills and handed them to Samuel, then explained to them the effects of the pills. After Samuel took the pill, he looked through it carefully in his hand, while Banner listened carefully to Li Heng's words and asked, Do you have any more? I'm going to study them. After hearing what Banner said, Samuel also looked at Li Heng and nodded frantically. Well, Li Heng knew that researchers like them would never let go of this kind of pill. So Li Heng took out a few more pills and gave them to Banner, asking him to study them with Samuel. After the two of them left, Li Heng asked the system. System, they won't just come up with the same thing while they're researching, right? Host, please rest assured that no one in this world can restore the items produced by the system. Only after hearing what the system said did Li Heng feel relieved. Otherwise, he would be worried that if the two of them really figured it out, he would become addicted and have to rely on pills to survive, which would not be acceptable. Seeing the two of them getting the pills and studying them again, Li Heng told them before leaving. After the study, if you remember that no one has eaten any, I will not give you any more. Then Li Heng returned home, thinking that he could finally have a good rest for a while, but Li Heng suddenly remembered what he had said to Ethan before. Just at this moment, Li Heng's phone rang. He picked it up and saw that it was Ethan calling. Li, you said you wanted to meet the magician. When are you going to go? Before Li Heng could speak, he heard Ethan ask. Well, let me check the time. It's late today. Why don't we go tomorrow? Okay, I'll wait for you tomorrow. Li Heng smiled. Sure enough, Ethan had nothing to do recently and became bored. In addition, he had told him last time to see the world of magic, which made Ethan remember it. Early the next morning, Li Heng got up, washed, changed his clothes, and then came to the villa. At this time, Tony was still sleeping soundly. So Li Heng did not wake up Tony, but took Ethan, who had woken up long ago, to 177A Bleecker Street in Greenwich in downtown New York City. On the way, Ethan was still asking Li Heng. Can you tell me a little bit about the magician? Oh, to put it simply, there is a group of magicians on Earth who have been protecting the Earth from invasions by demons from other dimensions. They have built 3 temples on Earth, one in the UK, one in Hong Kong, and one in New York. The one we are going to today is the New York Temple. Li Heng brought Ethan to Bleecker Street, but Ethan looked at the 2 stores in front of him and asked. Don't tell me the place you're talking about is next to a tattoo parlor and a restaurant. Li Heng explained to Ethan. Magic is used here to cover up the traces, so people who don't understand magic won't be able to see anything when they come here. At this time, another voice sounded. What Li said is correct. In order to prevent the temple from being constantly disturbed, we have cast magic around the temple. A bald black man wearing a training suit walked out of the temple, then came to Li Heng and introduced himself. Temple Guardian, Drum. Li Heng also introduced himself. Li Heng, this is Ethan, here to visit Master Ancient One. The teacher has already told me that you will come to visit today, so he asked me to wait for you too early. After saying that, he extended his hand and asked Li Heng and Ethan to enter the temple. Come in. At this time, Ethan suddenly noticed the new building in front of him, saw its appearance full of time, and then followed Li Heng into the temple. As Durham led the 2 of them up the stairs to the 2nd floor, he said. Please follow me, and through the space door on the 2nd floor, you can go to Kamar Taj. The teacher is waiting for you there. When they arrived at the space gate of the New York Temple, he watched as Dram adjusted it, and the scenery inside one of the doors changed. Then he motioned for the 2 to go through the space gate. Li Heng nodded to express his gratitude, then took Ethan through the space gate and came to Kamar Taj. At this time Ethan suddenly asked. Li, since they are also connected to this place through the space gate, why don't you bring me here directly? Li Heng explained. First, this place in Kamar Taj, where we are now, has been hidden by the Ancient One, so it's not easy to find its exact location. Second, this visit was invited by the Ancient One, so it would be impolite for us to come directly here. As soon as Li Heng finished speaking, he heard Gu Yi's voice. You are all welcome to visit. Please keep going forward. I am in the house ahead. Li Heng and Ethan passed by outside and saw the apprentices practicing magic. Ethan's eyes widened as he watched them use magic. I continued walking forward and found Gu Yi's house, and then saw Gu Yi making tea. Please take a seat. I just made a pot of tea. Please have a taste. Placing the teacup in front of the 2, Gu Yi continued. It's been a while since we last met. I didn't expect you to come here just now. As he spoke, Gu looked at Li Heng. I was delayed recently by something, so I couldn't come to visit earlier. Then Gu Yi saw Ethan's tense appearance and said. Ethan, don't be nervous, just relax. I see you seem to be very interested in magic. You know me and my thoughts. Gu Yi smiled and said, before you came, I already knew all of you very well. If you are interested in magic, you can stay and study for a while to see if you have a talent for magic. Ethan got excited, really? Of course. When Gu Yi was talking to Ethan, Li Heng noticed that although Gu Yi's appearance was the same as the last time they met, there was more experience in her eyes. Chapter 64. Recalling what Ancient One did in the movie, Li Heng knew that in a few years, she would have to leave the earth due to her short lifespan, and then she handed over things to the next Sorcerer Supreme, Strange. However, Li Heng thought that after Strange took office, he was unable to suppress the covetousness of the demons from other dimensions for the earth. Even Thanos dared to invade the earth only after the death of Ancient One and Odin. And Li Heng's current strength has not reached the level of Ancient One and Odin, so he doesn't want Ancient One to leave early. So Li Heng plans to slowly maintain his relationship with Ancient One, and see if he can help Ancient One stay on Earth for a longer period of time, until his strength reaches her level and he can stop Thanos head-on. At that time, Ancient One can do whatever he wants. As for now, Li Heng still feels that keeping a low profile and developing silently is the most important thing. Thinking of this, Li Heng decided that it would be a good opportunity for Ethan to stay here to learn magic. He would have an excuse to come and see Ethan and pay attention to Ancient One's condition. At this time, Ancient One had already called a disciple and asked him to take Ethan out to prepare for training to see if he could become a wizard. After Ethan left, Gu Yi looked at Li Heng. Li, after our last meeting, I tried to look into the future several times, but failed every time. So now you are the only variable that can lead to a different future outcome. So, what I do can change the future outcome you saw before. Gu Yi laughed and looked at Ethan in the yard. Li Heng then remembered, indeed, Ethan was saved by me, so it seems that there will be no big problem if I change the events at will and produce different endings. The main purpose of Li Heng's visit this time was to allow Ethan to learn magic. Unexpectedly, he got a reassurance from Ancient One. It was really a pleasant surprise. Afterwards, Li Heng chatted with Ancient One for a while, then said hello to Ethan who was immersed in magic, and then returned to Tony's villa alone. Tony, who was studying how to upgrade his suit, heard Jarvis say that Li Heng was back, so he quickly shouted through the loudspeaker. Li, get Ethan to come over and help. I have a problem. Li Heng came to the basement. When Tony saw that Li Heng was alone, he kept asking. Where's Ethan? Where? Today, Ethan and I went to meet the magician of this world. Then Ethan became interested in magic and stayed to learn magic. What? Li, you're not kidding me, are you? It wasn't until he saw Li Heng nod to confirm that Tony believed that Li Heng was not joking. Then Tony didn't even upgrade his suit, and pulled Li Heng to ask about the details. Li Heng explained the whole story to Tony. I'm going to visit Ethan in a few days. If you want to go, I can take you with me. Okay, I'll go check it out then. I'm not particularly curious, actually. At this time, Tony was still being stubborn. But Li Heng didn't argue with him. Instead, he took out the pills and said to Tony. Tony, this is the pill I got that can develop the brain. Taking one can improve your intelligence. Is this your magic item? No, it's not magic. But it works just like I said. Tony took the pills and asked Jarvis to analyze them. It didn't take long for Jarvis to come up with the result. Sir, the effect is the same as Li said, but there is something in it that prevents me from synthesizing it. Li Heng said at this time, that's right, but you can only take one pill of this medicine. If you take too much, it will become addictive, just like that kind of thing that makes you addicted. Seeing that Tony was about to try the effect of the medicine, Li Heng left him a few tablets for Tony to study on his own, and then Li Heng left. When Li Heng arrived at the manor, he saw Samuel and Banner lying in the house. He knew that the two had also taken the pills, so he asked Xiao Zuj. How long have they been like this? It's been less than 5 minutes since I took the pill. Li Heng prepared to find a place to sit down and wait, because it took him an afternoon to adapt to the changes after taking the pills. However, within a few minutes after Li Heng sat down, Banner and Samuel woke up one after another. Li Heng quickly asked the system, why did they wake up so quickly, while I had to sleep for an entire afternoon to adapt? Then there must be a gap between you. Host, you don't use your brain to think as often as they do, so it takes you a little longer to adapt. Okay. Li Heng finally accepted the fact that his brain was not as good as Banner and the others. Then he asked the two people who woke up. How is it? Do you feel any difference? Samuel closed his eyes and thought for a while, and found that it was just as Li Heng said, his brain had been further developed and evolved a little. Well, it has the same effect as you said. I now have a vague idea of how to solve the previous problem. After saying that, Samuel ran back to his laboratory and continued his experiments. Banner was left looking at Li Heng in surprise. Although I have personally tested it, I still cannot believe that you can possess this drug, Li. Once the authorities find out that you have this kind of thing, they will surely come to snatch it away. At this time, Li Heng showed a confident smile, then let them try to snatch it. I'm not afraid. After chatting with Banner about his changes, Li Heng asked them to organize them and send them to Tony so that Tony could have a reference. The next day, Li Heng received a call from Tony. Hey, bro, do you have any more of your medicine? Li Heng, who answered the phone, asked. Why? Tony, have you tried it yet? Of course, and I feel that my changes and improvements are much greater than Banner and the others, so I want to ask if you have any more. I told you that each person can only take one pill, so I can't give you any. Well, okay, forget it. Tony obviously remembered Li Heng's previous warning from his excitement. He was also afraid that he would become dependent on Li Heng, so he stopped asking Li Heng. Then he began to care about Ethan's situation. So, when can we go see Ethan? I've prepared a lullaby for him to sleep in, so he won't be unable to sleep outside. Tony began to tease Ethan, who was not at home, and Li Heng took the opportunity to save the recording. Ha, let's not talk about whether Ethan can sleep or not. I have recorded your words. I will give them to Ethan when the time comes. Let him see how you treat him like a baby. Oh, Li, you can't do this, this is a conversation between us. Li Heng laughed, so what are you going to give me as a bribe? Don't worry, I've prepared something for you. Although it's not very useful, it's definitely worth it. Chapter 65. Li Heng said, okay, then I'll wait for what you prepare for me. No problem. A few days later, when Tony asked again, Li Heng also felt that he should go see Ethan and not just leave him with Ancient One. So, this time Li Heng came to the villa and brought Tony with him. He believed that Guyi would not mind, right? It should be fine. Ever since Guyi and Li Heng met, she no longer cares about what Li Heng does. Then they borrowed a passage from the New York Temple and arrived at Kamartaj. This time, Li Heng did not go to find Ancient One, but took Tony directly to the square where Ethan and others practiced magic. When Tony saw with his own eyes, Ethan drew circles in the air with his bare hands, and then a circular space door flashing yellow light appeared in front of him, through which he could see the scenery on the opposite side that was completely different from the square. Oh my god, Li, did you see that? Ethan really used magic. Tony excitedly talked and imitated Ethan's movements and began to draw circles. Tony raised his hands and drew for a while, but there was still no response. Then he put his hands down. Just then, Ethan turned his head and saw Tony's action. So when the practice was over, Ethan came over to find Tony and Li Heng. Hey Tony, why are you here? Of course I came to see if my savior had strayed into some place and hadn't returned for the past few days. Judging from Tony's tone, he was obviously complaining about Ethan coming here to learn magic but not telling him. At this time Ethan explained to Tony. Okay, Tony, I'm staying here to learn magic with the consent of the Ancient One. Without his consent, I'm not sure if this can be accomplished. After finally comforting the hypocritical Tony, Ethan said to Li Heng. Li, did you see the portal magic I used just now? Li Heng said, of course, I saw it. I didn't expect you to learn so quickly, Ethan. It's only been a few days and you can already use this magic. Of course. Master Mordo also said that I have some talent. And I have been able to slowly learn to use other magics. Seeing the excitement on Ethan's face, Li Heng felt that it was the right thing to bring Ethan to learn magic. It was obvious that Ethan was not only interested in magic, but also had some talent in it. A few people were talking here, and at this time Mordo came over and greeted Li Heng. The last time he came, Guyi had already introduced Mordo to Li Heng and let them get to know each other. Li, you are here to see Ethan? Don't worry, he is making rapid progress in his studies here. Hello, Mordo. This time I'm here with my friends to see Ethan's process of learning magic. Should that be okay? After hearing Li Heng's words, before Mordo could speak, Guyi's voice rang in their ears. Of course, no problem, Mordo. You can continue to practice magic with Ethan and let the guests watch. Mordo nodded and said, yes. Then Guyi said to Li Heng. Li, come over here, to the same room as last time. I have something to tell you. So Li Heng asked Tony to follow Ethan and the others to watch the magic up close. Tony was still asking. Ethan, what was that voice just now? Oh, that's the Sorcerer Supreme. What is the Sorcerer Supreme? This is a long story. Li Heng came to the house he was in last time and met Guyi. Li, since you knew something about me before you met me, I wonder if you know anything about Asgard. Asgard? Li Heng asked. When Guyi nodded to confirm, Li said. Well, I know some of their stories, but not in detail. Master Ancient One, what do you want to do by asking this? Ancient One replied, it's not what I want to do, but what Odin wants to do. After hearing what Ancient One said, Li Heng thought for a moment. At this stage, the only thing that could be related to Odin was Thor 2011. However, Thor 2010 was in, and it was only now. How could it be so much earlier? After Guyi finished speaking, he looked at Li Heng, and after noticing that Li Heng showed an expression of sudden realization and then confusion, he said. You really do know something. Li Heng just chuckled and didn't respond. So Ancient One continued. Odin discussed with me a few days ago that he wanted to send his son, Thor, to Earth to train him, and wanted me to help take care of him. But I'm busy with a lot of things, so I decided to let Thor go to your place when the time comes, and you will be responsible for training him for a while. After listening to what Ancient One said, Li Heng thought, sure enough, it is the same plot as Thor, Ragnarok, but why did Ancient One put the blame on me here? Moreover, when Ethan was asked to stay and study magic before, Guyi agreed without a second thought, showing how generous he was. This made it impossible for Li Heng to find an excuse to refuse, and he finally had to agree. So, Thor, when will you come? Oh, I forgot to mention that he still has a few months left. You don't have to worry too much. Just make sure nothing happens to him. Li Heng thought, it's easy for you to say, but with Thor's temper, he will find trouble on his own unless it comes to him. But fortunately, by that time Odin would have taken back Thor's power, so he would not be able to defeat me. Thinking of this, Li Heng said to Guyi, don't worry, I will definitely take good care of him. After finishing speaking, Ancient One said. Ethan has a deep love for magic, so he can grow faster if he stays here for a long time to study and practice. I know. Let him stay here and learn before going back. There is internet here anyway, so he can keep in touch with us. After Li Heng and Guyi finished talking, they came out and found Tony, who was concentrating on watching Ethan cast magic. Then they told Tony that Ethan would continue to study here for a while, but he would still be able to contact them. Then he finally dragged Tony away from Kamar-Taj. As for Ancient One, he had no intention of meeting Tony. Back at the villa, Tony said to Li Heng. Li, I see there's a difference between Ethan's magic and yours. Li Heng said, of course, the source of my magical power is different from theirs. After Ethan's explanation, Tony obviously now has some understanding of wizards and knows what Li Heng meant. He then stopped asking Li Heng because if he continued asking, he would have to touch upon some of the sources of Li Heng's magical power, and Tony would feel disrespectful to Li Heng. Chapter 66. At this time, Li Heng received a message from Samuel, asking him to hurry to the manor, as he had a message to tell Li Heng. So Li Heng came out of the villa and came to the manor. When Samuel saw Li Heng, he quickly called Li Heng to his laboratory and showed Li Heng his latest research. After watching the demonstration and seeing the mice that Samuel used as experimental subjects go from being listless to being full of energy, Li Heng knew that Samuel had made a breakthrough in his research. Li, thanks to your medicine, I suddenly figured out a key point in my research and made a breakthrough. Li Heng was very happy. He had finally seen some light at the end of the tunnel after waiting for so long. However, he still told Samuel not to get exhausted in the laboratory and to get more rest. In the following months, Li Heng sometimes went to the manor to check on the research progress of Samuel and others, as well as how far Xiao Zuj had come. Sometimes he also went to see how Ethan was doing in learning magic. On this day, Li Heng came to find Tony and prepared to go check on Ethan's situation. Ever since the last visit to Kamar-Taj, Ethan had been in contact with the two of them through the computer, so this time Li Heng planned to go over and take a look, and by the way asked me, Ancient One, when Odin was going to put Thor on Earth. When I came to Kamartaj again, everything was still the same, nothing had changed at all. Only Ethan put on the student uniform here and dressed himself up very smartly. When he saw Li Hung and Tony, Ethan walked over excitedly and gave them a tight hug. You two are here. Tony, of course. Li Hung, it's been a while since we last came to see you, so we decided to come and see you. Everything is going well for me here, and I've learned a lot of magic as I told you via email. Li Hung nodded and signaled Ethan to talk to Tony first while he went to find Ancient One. When I walked into the room, I saw Gu Yi sitting on a chair with his eyes closed, and incense was burning in front of him. Seeing this situation, Li Hung didn't want to disturb him directly. He didn't know what Gu Yi was doing, so he sat down and waited. Fortunately, it didn't take too long before Gu Yi opened his eyes and looked at Li Hung. You probably came here not just to visit Ethan this time. Yes, I also want to ask, when will Thor come to Earth? Li Hung asked. Just in time. When you came in, I was communicating with Odin. He said that in a few days, he would put Thor on Earth. Remember to keep an eye on him then. Li Hung nodded to indicate that he remembered it. Afterwards, after coming out, Li Hung went to talk to Ethan and found out that Ethan had already learned all the basic magic and was now practicing with Mordo. Soon, he would be able to learn it. Li Hung patted Ethan on the shoulder and said, Ethan, Tony and I are looking forward to your return. We will definitely have a good drink then. After seeing Ethan, Li Hung and Tony returned to the villa. Li Hung took out his cell phone and contacted Xiao Zuch, asking him to pay attention to the movements in Mexico. After all, Li Hung learned from Ancient One that Thor would be coming to Earth soon, so of course he had to keep an eye on Mexico. He remembered that Thor and his hammer first landed in Mexico. At this time, Tony asked Li Hung. Li, I see you're not just visiting Ethan today, you're also looking for Master Ancient One for something. Li Hung put away his phone and said. Yes, that's right. Master Ancient One told me that Odin, the king of the Aesir, is going to banish his son, Thor, the god of thunder, to Earth. By the way, do you know the Aesir? Li Hung did not hide anything and directly told Tony that Thor was coming. After hearing what Li Hung said, Tony stood up and exclaimed to Li Hung. What did you say? The Aesir? The Aesir I know. After seeing Li Hung nod, Tony continued. But isn't that the myth I've heard? Tony had heard this myth since he was a child. The Aesir existed from the beginning, but later on, they evolved and gradually became myths. Speaking of which, Odin not only put Thor on Earth, but also threw his hammer over here. I just asked my friend to pay attention to the situation in Mexico. Tony asked, oh, you knew he was going to show up in Mexico? Of course, if you are interested, you can also pay attention to it. Then we can go to meet Thor together. But you should not have too high expectations. When he loses his divine power, he will just be a stronger man with an impulsive personality. After finishing speaking, Li Hung looked at Tony. Moreover, the lifespan of the Aesir is generally several thousand years. Thor is only 1,500 years old now, so he is still equivalent to the age of a young man. After hearing what Li Hung said, Tony seemed even more interested. After all, there were guardian wizards on Earth, so having more aliens didn't seem to be a difficult thing to accept. Tony's reaction at this time was exactly what Li Hung expected. What? But I haven't seen God yet. If he comes at that time, we can go and see him together. Tony showed an excited expression on his face, and then continued to ask. Then how are we going to get there? It's okay. Put on your iron suit and I'll come pick you up. We'll go together then. Li Hung did not reject Tony. Instead, he prepared to let Tony go with him to meet Thor. It would be best if he could hear more about the universe from Thor and then focus on the universe instead of limiting himself to the Earth. In that case, Tony will definitely develop more powerful spaceships, weapons, etc. according to the situation in the universe. It would be best if all countries on Earth were upgraded. That way, by then, countries on Earth would not be without the ability to fight back. Okay, it's settled then. Then Tony directly instructed Jarvis. Jarvis, please use the satellite to monitor the situation in Mexico as well. Okay, sir. After making the decision with Tony, Li Hung returned home and waited quietly for news from Mexico. A few days later, when Li Hung was having dinner, Xiao Zuj suddenly called Li Heng's cell phone. Master, something flew straight in from outer space and landed on Earth at an extremely fast speed. The place where it landed was Mexico. After hearing what little Zudge said, Li Hung decided to continue eating the meal before setting off again, and said to the old man, "Grandpa, I have something to do later and need to go out for a while." Chapter 67. Just as Li Hung continued to eat, his cell phone rang again. Li Hung looked and saw that it was Tony calling. It seemed that he had also observed what happened in Mexico. When Li Hung answered the phone, he heard Tony say, "Li, you should know about that thing in Mexico, right? When are we going to set off? I can't wait to meet the alien god." "Oh, I'm eating now, you should wait a moment." After saying that, Li Hung hung up the phone. "Hello? Hello?" Tony heard the busy tone coming from his phone, still unable to believe it. "This is a chance to see Thor first, why does Li want to eat first? I also want to ask Thor for some of his hair to do an experiment after I see him." There was no choice, Tony could only wait until Li Hung finished his meal, and then the two of them were teleported to Mexico. When they arrived at the place where the landing object was discovered by the satellite, Li Hung and Tony discovered that someone had arrived here earlier than them, and it seemed that he was a member of an organization. Those people obviously also saw Li Hung and Tony appear, so one of the guards walked into the simple house next to them, apparently to report to his superiors. At this time, Li Hung remembered that the people in front of him seemed to be from S.H.I.E.L.D., because he remembered that after Iron Man 2, Coulson was sent by Nick Fury to study the hammer. Sure enough, the man who followed the guard out was Coulson. He looked at Li Hung and the other man, then said to Tony, "Mr. Stark, may I ask why you are here?" Tony then asked, Your Land and Resources Bureau, are here too." After saying that, Tony checked the time. "It hasn't been long since that thing appeared, and you have already surrounded this place." "It's S.H.I.E.L.D., sir." "Is that the hammer you came for?" Hearing Tony's words, Coulson obviously wanted to know if Tony knew anything about the hammer that no one could lift. At this time, Li Hung said, "Coulson, what, are you targeting this again?" "Mr. Li, we at S.H.I.E.L.D. are protecting the safety of the Earth and preventing anyone from getting hurt, so we have fenced off this place for research." When Li Hung heard what Coulson said, he knew that what he said was just another cliché, so he shrugged his shoulders, indicating an expression that said, "You can say whatever you want, but I don't believe it." "Tony, do you want to go over and take a look?" Li Hung asked Tony. "Of course, that's what I came for." After saying that, Li Hung and Tony walked inside to take a closer look at the thing that fell from the sky. At this time Coulson knew that he could not stop Li Hung and Tony, so he could only follow them. Then he took out his cell phone and called Nick Fury, ready to ask Nick Fury what to do. The moment the call was connected, Coulson said, "Sir, there's a problem here at the Mexican base." After a pause, Coulson realized that Nick Fury had no intention of speaking, so he could only continue. "Just now, Mr. Stark and Mr. Li Hung came here together. I couldn't stop them, so they are now ready to get close to the hammer." After hearing Coulson's words, Nick Fury thought about it for a moment, and then, as Coulson waited anxiously, he finally spoke when Li Hung and Tony reached the deep pit where the hammer had hit them. "Give the phone to Tony Stark and I'll talk to him." Thank God, Coulson finally breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Nick Fury's words. Although the waiting time was not very long, Coulson was still very nervous. He was afraid that Tony would touch the hammer before Nick Fury spoke, and then something unexpected would happen. He could not afford it. After all, this hammer flew from outer space, and no one has been able to lift it so far, so no one knows what its condition is. So Coulson quickly stepped forward, handed the phone to Tony, and said, "My sir, it's Nick Fury calling." Tony looked at his phone, then looked at Li Hung, reached out and took the call. "Tony, you should also know that this hammer came from outer space, so no one knows its specific situation now. I think it is better to hand it over to S.H.I.E.L.D. for preliminary testing and processing. If you want, you can come to our laboratory and conduct experiments together." Tony laughed when he heard what Nick Fury said on the phone. "You also know that the hammer is not an ordinary thing, so it's normal for me to want to be the first to do the experiment now, right?" Nick Fury says. "I still stick to my opinion. S.H.I.E.L.D. is to ensure that the Earth is not affected by foreign objects, so..." Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Li Hung. "Can you do it, Nick Fury?" Is it only if this place and this hammer are handed over to your shield to manage and control that we can prevent alien invasion? Because Tony had turned on the speaker when he answered the phone, everyone around him could hear Nick Fury's words, which was why Li Hung couldn't help but scold him. Do you think that you, Shield, are the only one on the entire Earth who is great and selfless and has the obligation to protect the safety of the Earth? Forget it, do you really think that you are the only one protecting the Earth? You should take care of your own internal affairs first. Besides, we want to study this hammer. I advise you not to stop us. Otherwise, if you anger me, you should remember the consequences. After that, Li Hung signaled Tony to hang up the phone and threw the phone to Coulson. Now, Coulson, I don't want to waste any time in a conflict with you, so you'd better arrange your people and step back a little, leaving the middle space for me. After saying that, Li Hung looked at Tony. He looked at Li Hung in surprise. Li, I didn't expect you to speak to Nick Fury in this tone. Haha, I usually ignore him before he makes me angry, but now, he'd better not bother us. After saying that, Li Hung and Tony approached the hammer together, and got together to take a closer look at the legendary weapon of Thor. Coulson retreated to a far place outside when his phone rang again. Upon closer inspection, he saw that it was Nick Fury calling. Sir, Mr. Li Hung is now working on the hammer with Mr. Stark, and asked me to step back and leave them enough space. Chapter 68. Nick Fury didn't say anything, but it was obvious that although he didn't want to admit it, he still acknowledged the fact that Li Hung and Tony conducted the research first, and also talked about other topics. You just heard what Li Hung said. Do you think it's true that we are not the only shield protecting the Earth? Nick Fury asked directly what he wanted to know most, and then continued. Besides, he also told me to take care of internal affairs first. Does he know something? You can ask me later, Li Hung, what does he mean by what he said? It would be best if you can find out what he wants to say. Then, without waiting for Coulson to ask why, Nick Fury hung up the phone. Coulson was left staring at the phone in his hand in a daze. In the big pit, Li Hung and Tony got close to the hammer. Tony tried it first, and sure enough, the hammer didn't move at all and he couldn't lift it at all. Seeing this situation, Tony got angry, so he put on the Iron Man suit and prepared to try again with the help of the power of the suit. Tony used the thrusters on his suit's arms to increase his strength, but he still had no effect on the hammer. At this time, seeing Tony's different attempts, Li Hung said, Tony, you should take a break. You probably won't be able to lift this hammer now or in the future. Tony was obviously surprised to hear Li Hung say this. Li, are you serious? Even you can't lift it. There are only a handful of people who can lift this hammer. I can't lift it now, but I'll wait a little longer. It's hard to say what will happen in the future. After saying this, Li Hung did not give Tony a chance to ask further questions, and quickly gave Tony some scientific information. This hammer is called Mjolnir, or Thor's hammer. It was forged by Odin, the god king of Asgard, who found the core of a dying star and gave it to the dwarves. It is very powerful and is mostly used by Thor to destroy and fight. Therefore, Odin used it as a symbol of the new king and prepared to pass the throne to Thor. At this point, Li Hung suddenly stopped his science lecture, then looked behind him and found Coulson who was trying to eavesdrop secretly. Coulson knew he was going to be discovered, so he quickly turned around and walked outside. At this time, Li Hung called Coulson. Okay, you don't have to go, Coulson. You've been listening for so long, so I won't delay you from listening to the rest. Then Li Hung continued. But Thor angered Odin because he was disobedient, so he was thrown by Odin, and Odin also cast a spell on the hammer. Hearing Li Hung's pause, Coulson couldn't help but ask, what spell is it? Whoever holds this hammer, as long as he is worthy, will have the power of Thor. Tony asked doubtfully. Possessing the power of Thor? Isn't Thor the god of thunder? Li Hung chuckled. So, this is a parent-child game between Odin and Thor. Odin's purpose is to temper Thor's temper. In the end, only Thor can become the god of thunder. He won't let just anyone master the power of thunder. After hearing Li Hung's explanation, Tony and Coulson understood Odin's purpose and had a not-so-good initial impression of Odin. So, there is really no other way to pick up this hammer. Tony still didn't give up and wanted to get more information from Li Hung. Li Hung said. Actually, there is a way. Oh. Tony and Coulson became alert again after hearing what Li Hung said. The easiest way is to have the best quality. If it matches the hammer, it will be easy to pick up. What about the second method? The second method is that your strength is strong enough to support you to forcibly pick up the hammer. However, to reach that level, your strength must at least be close to that of Odin. Ha, ha. Hearing this, Tony laughed dryly a few times, indicating that he could not lift the hammer. At this time, Carlson finally remembered to ask Li Hung. Mr. Li, may I ask, you just said that the earth is not only protected by our shield, so who else is protecting the earth? When Li Hung heard Carlson's question, he knew that Nick Fury definitely asked him to ask, but then he remembered that the wizards of Kamar-Taj all obeyed the requirements of the Ancient One and did not get involved in worldly affairs and did not want to appear in the public eye. So Li Hung was not going to tell Carlson, which meant he was not going to let the world's largest intelligence agency know about the existence of Kamar-Taj. So Li Hung smiled and said, "Of course we are the ones who are still protecting the earth." As Li Hung spoke, he pointed at Tony, indicating that the two of them were together and were protecting the safety of the earth. When Carlson saw Li Hung's expression, he knew he couldn't get anything out of him, so he didn't take the next questions too seriously. "Mr. Li, you also said that we should first manage our internal affairs properly. Is there anything wrong with us?" Li Hung thought about it and felt that now was not the time to talk about Hydra. He would bring up the matter of Hydra at the right time to attract Nick Fury's attention. So Li Hung said perfunctorily, "No, I just want you to pay attention to your discipline, nothing else." When Li Hung and Tony turned their attention back to the hammer, Carlson retreated to a distance and hit Nick Fury. "What, are you sure he said he was protecting the earth?" Nick Fury on the other end of the phone obviously didn't expect to get this answer from Carlson. "That's right, sir, and Mr. Li not only said that he was protecting the earth, but he also brought Tony Stark with him, and Mr. Stark has not denied it yet." After hearing what Carlson said, Nick Fury sat up straight and thought, "It seems that both Li Hung and Tony know the real situation, so I should be able to slowly learn some real information from Tony in the future." "And what about the interior?" Mr. Li showed a perfunctory attitude on this issue. "Oh, so that's it. That means he really knows that there is a problem within our organization, but he doesn't want to say it. Okay, continue to follow them and collect some intelligence." After hanging up the phone, Nick Fury thought for a long time and couldn't think of any big problems with S.H.I.E.L.D. However, he also felt that with Li Hung's strength, he would not bother to lie about such an issue that had nothing to do with him. So Nick Fury began to have some doubts about S.H.I.E.L.D. Chapter 69. This made Nick Fury very uncomfortable. He wanted to know the answer, but he couldn't find it himself, and Li Hung wouldn't tell him. After thinking for a long time, Nick Fury didn't trust anyone, so once he had doubts in his mind, he finally decided to conduct a thorough investigation of S.H.I.E.L.D. However, he had to hide this from others and do it secretly. Carlson continued to come behind Li Hung and Tony, ready to continue listening to what Li Hung said, then write it down and hand it to Nick Fury. However, when Carlson came to the side of the pit again, Tony and Li Hung had already stood up and were ready to go out. "Mr. Li, what are you doing?" Li Hung said. "Carlson, just call me Li. I have a very good impression of you. You don't need to address me so formally." After finishing speaking, Li Hung continued to explain. "Tony and I have now seen the hammer, so we plan to stay here for a while and study it slowly. You can prepare a room for me and Tony, just in your house." As he said that, Li Hung looked at the simple house built by S.H.I.E.L.D. to surround Thor's hammer. Carlson heard what Li Hung said, so he agreed. "Okay, come with me." So Carlson took Li Hung and Tony to a house. As soon as he entered the house, Li Hung saw that all the living facilities inside were complete, enough for them to have a good rest here. After arranging the two people in the room, Carlson began to try to talk more to Li Hung and slowly establish a good friendship with Li Hung. Li Hung knew that Carlson actually wanted to get some information from him, but Carlson's way of speaking, the way he did things, and the way he handled things all left Li Hung with a good enough impression of him, so Li Hung did not stop him from participating in the conversation between Li Hung and Tony. Sitting in the room, Tony asked. "Li, you said that this hammer is the weapon of Thor, the god of thunder. But now we have only seen the hammer. How come? Where is Thor? Why can't we see him?" Tony's question caught Carlson's attention, because this was exactly the question Carlson wanted to know. So the two men looked at Li Hung, wanting to get an answer from him. Li Hung picked up the disposable water cup from the table, went to the water dispenser next to him to get a glass of water, and drank it. This relieved the thirst he felt after talking for so long. Then he said, "Don't be anxious. Calm down and wait slowly. You will be able to see Thor tonight at the latest. But Thor is actually nothing special. Odin has taken back his power, so he will be no different from an ordinary person." Li Hung explained Thor's situation again. Tony already knew about it, so Li Hung told it to Carlson. Because Li Hung just thought about it. First of all, he had a good impression of Carlson. Secondly, he also remembered that Carlson's ability was very good. In addition, Li Hung couldn't stand Nick Fury's style. In this case, it would be better to find a way to let Carlson take over the position of director. In this way, there won't be someone secretly calculating this and then that all day long, making everyone unhappy. Moreover, Li Hung had already offended Nick Fury before, so it goes without saying that Nick Fury also has a bad opinion of Li Hung. At that time, the best thing to do would be to let Nick Fury go into the universe to harm other races, and then Carlson would stay and take over S.H.I.E.L.D., working with Lee Henry and Tony to protect the Earth. Without Nick Fury's various calculations and self-assertion, Li Hung believed that he would be able to get along very well with S.H.I.E.L.D. This idea suddenly popped up in Li Hung's mind, and then it became uncontrollable, and the idea grew rapidly. So Li Hung slowly began to agree to let Carlson listen to his conversation with Tony, and would reveal some information to Carlson appropriately so that Carlson could use it to make merit, slowly accumulating information and waiting for the best opportunity for Carlson to accept S.H.I.E.L.D. Li Hung thought about it and realized that the opportunity would probably not come for a few years, so now he just had to accumulate energy for Carlson slowly. After hearing what Li Hung said, Tony realized that Hammer and Thor did not come to Earth at the same time. If he wanted to meet Thor, he had to wait a little longer. Fortunately, the time Li Hung mentioned was not long, and it would be tonight at the latest, so Tony could wait. So Tony put the matter aside for the time being and instead talked to Li Hung about the development of his Iron Man suit. "Li, do you remember what I told you last time, that I wanted to give you a surprise?" Li Hung said. "Of course I remember, what is Tony?" Tony laughed happily and said. "I'm almost done. You can go to the villa to see the real thing in a few days." Li Hung didn't expect Tony to be so fast. It only took a few days, and now Tony said it was almost finished. Then Li Hung really looked forward to it, wondering what Tony would get for him. Then several people chatted like this until the evening, during which time Carlson ordered the researchers to temporarily stop their research. After all, from what Li Hung said, he knew that the owner of the hammer would soon appear, so there was no need to waste time studying it. And so they waited until night, and just when Tony was about to lose patience and fall asleep, the detector finally rang. Beep, beep, beep. Hearing the sound, Tony woke up immediately and came to the monitor to see what caused the detector to alarm. Li Hung and Carlson also came behind Tony and watched Tony's operations quietly. After Tony's operation, he finally found the reason why the detector alarmed. Plum. Li Hung asked, "What's wrong, Tony?" "Detectors show that something has entered the Earth's atmosphere from outer space again, and is heading towards Mexico." Tony operated it for a while, and then continued. "The predicted location is near us." After that, Tony and Li Hung looked at each other, and Li Hung said, "Look, I told you, we'll be able to see each other tonight at the latest. What are you waiting for? Let's go." After Li Hung finished speaking, Tony put on his Iron Man suit and did a self-check. After finding no problems, he said to Li Hung, "Okay, we can go now." At this time, Carlson at the side finally asked, Li, when you go to find the Thunder God, can you take me with you?" Chapter 70. Li Hung waved at Carlson, signaling him to come over. "Of course, come here, we are about to set off." Carlson walked to Li Hung's side, and after Li Hung asked Tony for the specific direction, he teleported away with the two of them. The next moment, several people appeared next to the beam of light coming from the sky. As soon as he stood firm, Li Hung heard a bang. He knew that it was the sound of Jane and the others hitting Thor with their car. Obviously, Tony also heard the sound, so he increased the power of the Iron Man suit, causing a headlight to light up on his head. The light was so bright that it could clearly illuminate the surrounding area of dozens of meters. At the moment the lights came on, Tony spoke first. "Hey, everyone, are you having dinner here so late at night?" Then Tony saw the situation at the scene. A car stopped nearby, and then two girls and an older man surrounded the car. Tony could vaguely see a person lying on the ground in the middle of the area they surrounded. When they heard Tony's words, several people were shocked and realized that there were other people here. So they all turned their heads to look in the direction of the voice, and then saw Tony's face. The elderly man said, You are Tony Stark. Oh, you know me. Of course. He stepped forward and tried to shake Tony's hand. I'm Professor Eric Selvig, and these are my students, Jane and Daisy. Tony opened the hands of his suit, shook hands with Selvig, and asked. So, what are you doing here? Selvig explains. It's like this. My student Jane detected some abnormalities in the data here through instruments, so she dragged us over here to measure it on the spot. Unexpectedly, we encountered a beam of light falling from the sky. When we came over, there was too much smoke and dust, and we didn't see the other person, so we bumped into him. After listening to Selvig's words, Tony understood the situation. Then, just as he was about to continue speaking, he was startled by a sudden shout. Hammer, where's my hammer? It turned out to be the blonde muscle man lying among the others. When he heard Jane approaching to inquire about his situation, he started to scream at the top of his lungs, shouting hammer. Hearing this, Li Heng and Tony looked at each other and knew that this person was the Thor they were looking for. But the current Thor is not worthy of the title of Thunder God at all. He is lying on the ground covered in dust, shouting loudly where the hammer is without caring about his image. With just one glance, Tony's image of Thor completely collapsed. Then he looked at Li Heng with a puzzled look, looking at this guy, are you sure he is really the Thunder God you mentioned? The Thunder God in mythology? Li Heng answered him with his eyes, yes, this is the Thor I was talking about. Saul's sudden shouting made Jane, who was asking him about his condition, not know what to do. She thought Saul was drunk and that was why he was like this. Okay, we know you've been drinking. It's pretty obvious. At this time, Thor stood up and began to look around. Just as Thor stood up and walked away, Jane saw the icon left on the ground and quickly recorded it. Eric, this is a real research subject. Jane was about to start recording, but Eric had a different opinion. Jane, we need to take him to the hospital first. Father. Thor was still shouting. Jane said, he's fine, look at him. Saul continued. Heimdall, I know you can hear me. Open the Bifrost. After saying this and seeing no response, Thor finally looked at everyone present. You guys, which kingdom is this place? This is when Carlson finally spoke. This is New Mexico. Where is that? I haven't heard of it. Well, looking at Thor's recklessness and ignorance, Li Heng remembered what Ancient One had told him to do, that he should take care of Thor, so Li Heng said to Carlson. Okay, Carlson, someone asked me to look after him. Leave it to me. After hearing Li Heng's words, Carlson did not stand in front of the crowd, but let Li Heng walk next to Thor. Thor was about to speak, mortal, tell. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, Li Heng cast a magic spell at Thor, and Thor fell straight down. Phew, it's finally quiet. After doing all this, Li Heng sighed, and when he turned his head, he found that Carlson was looking at him with a strange expression, and so was Tony. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? Is there dust on my face? As he asked, Li Heng wiped his face with his hands. At this time, Carlson came back to his senses and asked Li Heng, You? Li, this is what you call looking after? What did you do? Li Heng then realized that they were frightened by his actions, so he said. Oh, I just think he's too noisy, so let him sleep for a while. Don't worry, he won't get into trouble if he doesn't sleep well. He will wake up soon. After hearing Li Heng's words, everyone felt relieved. Then Jane pulled Eric to start recording the images on the ground, while Carlson walked up to talk to Daisy, ready to ask about their situation. As for Li Heng and Tony, they came to Thor who was lying on the ground. Because they knew that he was not from Earth but from Asgard, Tony took the lead. He took out a bag, put some hair from Thor's head into it, then used the scanner that came with the Iron Man suit to scan Thor from head to toe, and then threw the data to Jarvis for analysis. After finishing everything, Eric and Carlson carried Thor into the car and asked Tony and the others. We're going to take him to the hospital. Do you want to come with us? Li Heng knew that Thor would be fine, but obviously Carlson and Tony wanted to go with him to see for themselves, so they all went to a hospital in a small town in New Mexico and gave Thor a full-body examination. While everyone was registering their information outside, Thor finally woke up in the room. He saw someone trying to stick a needle into his arm, so he shouted, "You dare to attack the son of Odin!" Then he tried to break free from the doctor and go out, but was stopped by the security guard called by the doctor, so Thor started fighting with the security guard. Everyone who heard the sound hurried in. At this time, Carlson wanted to go forward and talk to Thor, but Li Hung reached out to stop him. Chapter 71. Li Hung knew that given Thor's current personality and temper, it would be better to control him right away, otherwise he would continue to use his bad temper against others. So Li Hung didn't say anything more, and under the gazes of Tony and others, he walked directly in front of Thor and asked the security guards to step back. Then Li Hung didn't say anything and went straight up to Thor and gave him a shoulder throw. Oh! The others were startled by Li Hung's actions, and at this time Sol also reacted and prepared to fight back. It's a pity that Li Hung's physical strength has been enhanced by the power of space and cannot be compared with Thor, who has now lost his divine power. So, the result is predictable. Thor was put back on the bed, his hands and feet tied up, and he was still cursing. "How dare you, a man from Midgard, attack the great thunder god?" Hearing what Thor said, the doctors and security guards around him all laughed. Now they believed that Thor had drunk too much. Then the doctor took out the anesthetic and injected it into Thor, and Thor calmed down. Tony came to Li Hung's side. "Li, you do this, Just when Tony was still struggling with what words to use to describe what Li Hung did, Li Hung directly replied to him. "Don't worry. Given Thor's physical condition, he will be fine even if I hit him a few more times. Now I just have to wait until he wakes up and make him quiet down and listen to me." After hearing what Li Hung said, Tony shrugged and said that he would not get involved and let Li Hung handle it. Then Jane and the others were ready to leave after paying Thor's medical bills, but Carlson came forward and said a few words to them before letting them leave. Then Li Hung spent the whole night taking care of Thor, who told him to start yelling every time he woke up and not listen to what other people said. Finally, when Li Hung pushed him to the ground for the 9th time, Thor finally stopped yelling and seemed to understand that if he continued to yell, he would still be pushed to the ground by Li Hung. But now Thor couldn't beat Li Hung, so he calmed down. Li Hung saw that Sol was finally quiet, so he looked at him. "Thor, you're not yelling anymore." Sol looked at Li Hung while lying on the bed, then asked, "Who are you? I have never heard of a warrior like you in Midgard." Well, it seems that Sol regarded Li Hung as a warrior. However, Li Hung was too lazy to explain to him, and said, "Now that you've calmed down, I'll tell you why I came to see you." Li Hung sat on the bed and said, "My name is Li Hung. I came to you on behalf of someone who asked me to look after you before you return to Asgard." Hearing Li Hung's words, Sol sat up straight. "You know Asgard, so you must know my identity. Can you help me contact someone so that I can return to?" Thor was very excited because no one else believed what he said. Only Li Hung mentioned the name of Asgard. From his words, it could be heard that he had a certain understanding of himself and Asgard. So Sol wanted Li Hung to help him, but before he could say anything, Sol saw Li Hung raised his fist, and then Sol took emergency shelter and stopped talking. Li Hung waited until Sol calmed down again before speaking. "Don't look at me like that. I know you're not convinced, but I don't care. This is the fastest way to make you obey. Okay, let's get back to the point. I've been told to know the purpose of your coming to Earth and the situation at your home, but I won't get involved in your family affairs. So I'll only help you adapt to life on Earth before you recover your divine power, and then you won't be in any harm." After saying these words, Li Hung stared into Sol's eyes. "Also, control your bad temper. Okay, that's all, do you understand?" Thor felt uncomfortable being stared at by Li Hung, but he didn't dare to do anything rash, otherwise he would be beaten again, so Thor could only nod. "Well, that's good. It seems you can handle other things calmly as well." From the way Li Hung treated Thor, to the way Tony and Carlson are now standing by, the way they look at Li Hung is truly stunning. Especially Carlson, he was already prepared to communicate with Thor through diplomatic means, but he didn't expect that he was beaten several times by Li Hung, and the previous Thor became what he is now. Then Li Hung asked the doctor to release Thor and took him to a restaurant in the town. When seeing Thor's rude way of eating, Tony and Carlson knew that Thor was still the same as before, and he would only change when facing Li Heng. When a few people were having dinner, the door of the restaurant was suddenly pushed open, and then Jane, Eric and Daisy walked in and went straight to the table where Li Heng and his friends were. Jane said, "Well, can we eat with you?" After seeing Li Heng nod, they sat down, ordered some food, and then prepared to ask Thor questions. It turned out that after they went back yesterday, Jane found a photo that she accidentally discovered. The content on the photo was clouds, but there was also a figure in the clouds. From the outline, it could be seen that it was Thor's figure, so they rushed over and prepared to ask Thor in person. "How did you get into that cloud? And how did you manage to eat a whole pastry and still be so hungry?" She originally wanted to ask about the photo, but when she saw how much Thor ate, she couldn't help but ask about his appetite. Thor kept talking. After he finished eating, he picked up the cup and drank a drink. After he finished drinking, he said, "This drink is good, I like it." Just as Jane was about to answer, Thor threw the cup to the ground. Continued cup. Snapped. The cup was broken, causing people in the restaurant to turn their heads to look. Then Jane quickly apologized to the waiter in the store, and Li Heng looked at Thor, and then said in his heart, "Well, I didn't pay attention for a while, and Thor did another big thing. But I also blamed myself for not remembering the etiquette of Asgard." Then Li Heng spoke to Sol. "Okay, Thor, you can't do this again." Before Sol could ask why, Li Heng began to explain to the others at the table. "This is a unique etiquette of Asgard. In order to express their love for fine wine, after drinking the wine in the glass, they will smash the glass to the ground." Chapter 72. Then Li Heng said to Sol, "But here we don't have such etiquette, so during this time on Earth, Thor, you can't do this again." At this time, Sol was no longer confused, but asked Li Heng, "Li, do you even know this?" Jane next to him covered her face and said, "Well, you don't look normal either," believing what Thor said. At this time, after hearing Li Heng's explanation, Tony and Carlson nodded in sudden realization, indicating that they understood. Jane was even more devastated when she saw this scene. More than one person actually believed what Thor said. His name is just Thor, but he is not the god of thunder. At this time, Li Heng suddenly said, "Jane, have you ever thought about why several of us believed it, including Tony Stark?" After saying this, Li Heng ignored Jane, but Jane didn't know what to say because of Li Heng's words. After saying this, Li Heng did not look at Jane, but looked at Sol and said, "Thor, now that you've come to Earth, don't you want to retrieve your weapons first?" Hearing Li Heng say this, Suo suddenly became excited, then looked at Li Heng and asked, "Li, you know my weapon, Mjolnir. Surely, I know where it is." Thor was about to stand up and pull Li Heng out of the restaurant. At this time, Jane finally spoke. "You mean, he's really the god of thunder?" Well, Li Heng was helpless, Thor was still dragging him to find the hammer, and Jane was still thinking about the truthfulness of Thor's words. Tony and Carlson hurried forward and persuaded Thor to wait for a moment and finish his meal first. Finally, as Thor anxiously waited, everyone finally stood up and prepared to take Thor to find his hammer. After leaving the restaurant, Li Heng led everyone to teleport to the place where the hammer fell. When Thor came out of the space, he looked at Li Heng in surprise and said, "Wow, I didn't expect you could use space magic. I thought you were a warrior." Li Heng did not answer him, but asked him to look forward. Thor looked over according to Li Heng's instructions, and saw the hammer in the middle of the pit at first glance. Li Heng and Sol came to the hammer and said, "Well, Thor, if you want to return to Asgard so badly, then lifting your Mjolnir is the best way. Pick it up, and you can go back, and maybe you will have the power to defeat me." After hearing the very tempting scene described by Li Heng, Thor couldn't bear it anymore and jumped directly into the pit, ready to try to pick up the hammer. However, Li Heng standing nearby thought that all of Thor's power now came from the hammer, so he could not be called the god of thunder at all. It was like he was being controlled by the hammer instead of using it. So Li Heng was not worried at all. He thought that after Thor picked up Mjolnir, he would be able to defeat Li Heng. Li Heng's strength has been strengthened by the power of space. Although it has not reached its strongest form, it is still not something Thor can defeat at this stage. In addition, it is not easy for Thor to pick up Thor's hammer. Thor walked right up to Mjolnir, and as Thor got closer, dark clouds began to gather in the sky, turning it dark, along with thunder and lightning. Seeing this situation, Jane and the others gradually became certain that Thor was the legendary god of thunder. But just as Thor walked forward with anticipation, grabbed the handle of Mjolnir and tried to lift it up, he found that no matter how hard he tried, Mjolnir did not move. Thor couldn't even lift his hammer, Mjolnir, or move it at all. After understanding the situation, Thor cried out sadly to the sky. "No, father! How could you do this to me?" Tony and the others looked at Thor's sudden appearance, not knowing what was going on. Li Hung, however, was very calm and asked Coulson to make arrangements for Thor temporarily. "Coulson, please find a room for Thor to stay in first." Li Hung was ready to wait for Loki to appear, but before that, Li Hung had to calm Thor's emotions and find something for him to do. Thor just didn't react at all and was taken into the room by Coulson. He couldn't understand why Odin treated him like this. Then Jane and her friends were about to say goodbye and leave. This time, Coulson sent someone to go back with them, because Coulson had agreed with her that he needed Jane's information and data to investigate Thor. Jane finally agreed because of the amount Coulson offered. After they left, Tony came to Li Hung and asked him what happened to Thor just now. Li Hung said, "Do you remember that I told you that Odin had cast a spell on this hammer? It's the line whoever holds this hammer, as long as he is worthy, will have the power of Thor, right?" Coulson thought for a moment and uttered Odin's spell. Tony glanced at Coulson and said, "You have a good memory. You can remember all this." Tony said that he would not waste his brain to remember such a long thing. Coulson smiled after hearing what Tony said, "This is my professional habit." Then Li Hung continued. "The reason why Thor can't lift Thor's hammer now is because he doesn't have enough qualities to be recognized by Thor's hammer. This is also the reason why Odin threw him to Earth. Odin wants Thor to be trained and tempered on Earth, and his personality will no longer be as impulsive as before. When Thor meets Odin's requirements, he will be able to lift Thor's hammer." After listening to Li Hung's explanation, Tony and Coulson truly realized the beauty of the second generation. Everything was arranged clearly by their elders, and they would not encounter any major setbacks at all. At most, they would have to deal with minor problems. See, this is the benefit of having a good father. After hearing Li Hung's sigh, Tony and Coulson nodded in agreement. When several people were preparing to go back into the house to check on Thor's situation, Jane, who had returned, began to look through all the historical materials related to Thor and began to analyze them. Finally, through cross-verification of the information she found, she confirmed Saul's identity. Although the truth did not sound true, Jane still said to Eric and Daisy, "Look, he really is Thor." Eric still didn't quite believe it, but in the end he couldn't persuade Jane and had to follow her to the base again. Chapter 73. Entering the house, Li Hung and his friends found Thor sitting in a chair with lifeless eyes. It was obvious that he was still immersed in the fact that Odin had abandoned him, unable to extricate himself. At this time, Li Hung said, "Thor, are you going to give up and return to Asgard?" Thor said nothing and didn't respond. Li Hung could only keep provoking him with words, trying to get Thor to speak. While Li Hung was trying, Coulson was outside the door, reporting what happened here to Nick Fury. After all, this was about the prince of the interstellar race Asgard. If anything happened, it would likely cause big problems. Nick Fury heard Coulson's detailed report on the phone, and then Nick Fury asked Coulson to hand the phone to Li Hung. He wanted to have a good talk with Li Hung about Asgard. Coulson called Li Hung out, then handed the phone to Li Hung and motioned him to answer the call. Li Hung looked and saw that it was Nick Fury on the other end of the phone. He couldn't understand why Nick Fury would look for him. So Li Hung prepared to listen to what Nick Fury had to say. "Li Hung, I know we have had some unpleasant experiences, but now an alien race is involved. I hope you can really protect the Earth as you said, and I hope you can work with S.H.I.E.L.D. to resolve this incident." After hearing what Nick Fury said, Li Hung suddenly laughed. Just when he was about to answer him, Li Hung suddenly turned his head and looked into the room, then said, "I don't need you to teach me, so don't worry about it." After saying that, Li Hung hung up the phone. When Li Hung went out to answer the phone, Thor in the house suddenly saw through the glass that his brother, Loki, had also come to Earth and was looking for him. Thor was surprised. "Loki, why are you here?" Loki said in a heavy tone, "I have to come and see you." Thor was stunned for a moment. What happened? Is it because of Jotunheim? Let me explain to my father. Loki followed up by saying, Father has passed away. What? Thor looked at Loki in disbelief, not believing that the news he brought was actually like this. Your expulsion and the coming of war were too much for him to bear. Just when Loki was about to continue to deceive Thor with the story he had prepared in advance, he suddenly heard the sound of the door opening and someone came in. Then Loki suddenly turned invisible and hid himself, but Thor remained sitting in his chair, unable to believe the news that Odin was dead. Li Hung pushed open the door and walked in, then he saw at a glance that Thor was in an even more listless state than before. Li Hung walked in front of Thor and looked at him for a while. During this time, Loki, who was standing invisible beside him, was also observing Li Hung. Suddenly, Li Hung turned around and swung his fist, which was filled with the power of space. He punched Loki directly, knocking the hiding Loki out. Loki did not expect that the earthling in front of him could actually see through his invisibility, and the power in his hands directly acted on himself. The unprepared Loki was hit and then lay on the ground. Thor saw Li Hang's action, and then saw Loki lying on the ground, and then he shouted again. Li, stop it, he's Loki, he's my brother. Li Hung slowly pulled over a chair, placed it in front of Thor, sat down, and then spoke. Okay, stop calling him Thor. I know he's Loki. Soul's shouting was choked by Li Hang's words. He didn't understand what Li Hung wanted to do. Then why did you treat Loki like this? At the same time, Tony and Carlson, who heard Thor's voice, also pushed the door open and walked in, asking Li Hung as they walked. Li, what happened? At this time, Li Hung answered Soul first. The purpose of doing this is to teach Loki a lesson. Don't play any tricks in front of me. It's better to be honest. I can see through his lies and magic. After saying this, Li Hung looked towards the corner on the left and continued speaking to the air in the corner. But it is obvious that your brother Loki did not understand what I meant. After saying that, Li Hung grinned, and blue light began to gather in his hands again. He looked towards the corner, ready to punch it. Tony and Carlson didn't know what was going on and why Li Hung was talking towards the corner, but the next moment, they were both very surprised. It turned out that just when Li Hung was about to punch, the light in the corner changed, and then Loki's appearance was revealed. He was standing in the corner in a very embarrassed manner. It was obvious that Li Hung's punch just now made him feel very uncomfortable. Thor was shocked by how easily Li Hung could spot Loki. After all, he had lived with Loki for so many years, and sometimes he couldn't easily distinguish between Loki's magic and his real body. At the same time, Thor didn't know why he saw Loki lying on the ground, and now he appeared in the corner. At this time, Thor looked at Loki lying on the ground, and found that the figure on the ground began to gradually disappear. Tony saw the situation in the room clearly and knew that Li Hung had taken the initiative, so he asked. Hey, Li, I've only been out for a few minutes, what's going on? Li Hung sat back in his chair and explained. First, let me introduce this person. Li Hung looked at Loki. This is Odin's son, Thor's younger brother, Loki. He is obviously worried about his brother's condition, so he secretly came to Earth to visit Thor. However, Loki, your purpose is not just this. Li Hung looked at Loki again. This time you came here, you not only told Thor about your father, you also tried to deceive Thor with some half-true and half-false news, wanting him to take all the blame on himself. Unfortunately, with me here, Loki, your goal will fail. What? Loki. Tell me, what is true? Thor heard what Li Hung said, and he also knew Loki's character, so he asked Loki, wanting to get some information from him. At this time, Li Hung said. Okay, Thor, let me tell you. Your father Odin has indeed fallen into the Odin sleep, but he is not really dead yet. The rest of your mother blaming you is nonsense. These are all lies told to you by Loki. Really? Loki. Chapter 74. Hearing what Li Hung said to Thor, Thor started to get angry again. Loki saw that Li Hung was focusing his attention on Thor, so he turned invisible and passed through the wall and left. Li Hung watched Loki leave without stopping him. Otherwise, what if Loki didn't send Odin's destroyer over? It turns out that Li Hung's only target now is Odin the destroyer. After Loki ran out, he returned directly to Asgard. Originally, Loki wanted to try to see if he could lift Mjolnir, but with Li Hung next to him, Loki did not dare to delay and ran back directly. After returning, Loki began to think of ways to get back all the losses he suffered from Li Hung. Seeing Loki running away secretly, Thor shouted loudly to vent his anger. At this time, Li Hung looked at Thor and said, "Now that you know the real situation, do you still want to continue to be so self-destructive? Can you imagine what Loki will do now that he has taken control of Asgard under false pretenses? Don't you want to go back to Asgard to see what is going on?" After being stimulated by Li Hung, Thor finally stopped looking dead and started asking Li Hung. "So, Li, do you know of a way to help me pick up Mjolnir again?" Loki returned to Asgard and took the opportunity to go to Jotunheim and found Laufey, the king of the Frost Giants. Then he made an agreement with Laufey that he would let Laufey assassinate Odin and he would cover for him. After the assassination, he would hand over the Frost Box to Laufey. And just like that, the two reached an agreement. When Loki returned to Asgard, Heimdall still had doubts about Loki's whereabouts and what he did. So later Heimdall asked someone to notify the 3 Asgardian warriors and Sif, who were eating and drinking and spending their days bored, that he wanted to meet them. Although Heimdall could not betray the orders of the current king Loki, he left his sword there when he left the Rainbow Bridge. His sword was the switch that controlled the Rainbow Bridge. Therefore, the 4 people used the Rainbow Bridge to go to the Earth. Loki saw all these things, so he went to the treasury, found the destroyer, and ordered him to kill Thor on Earth and not give Thor the chance to return to Asgard. Li Hung was about to answer Thor's question. At this time, Jarvis reported to Tony. "Sir, the same energy was detected again about 15 miles northwest of here. It's exactly the same as when Thor came here." Then someone knocked on the door, and the person reported to Coulson that Shield's machine had also detected it. At this time, Thor began to say, "Rainbow Bridge, it's the Rainbow Bridge, it must be Heimdall, I want to go and see." Having said that, Thor was so excited that he stood up and walked out. Li Hung also said, "If that's the case, then Tony, put on your Iron Man suit and go over to take a look." Then he said to Coulson, "Coulson, please evacuate the people in this base first. There may be a fight here." Then Li Hung brought a few people to the place where the Rainbow Bridge fell. Thor saw at a glance the 4 people who were wearing clothes that were out of place on Earth. Thor excitedly stepped forward and hugged the 4 people excitedly. "Hey guys, it's great to see you." Then Thor introduced them to Li Hung and the others. "This is Sif and the 3 warriors of Asgard. These are my friends I met on Earth." Then, Sif and the others talked to Thor about the purpose of their visit to Earth, wanting Thor to come back to correct Loki's mistakes. Thor said that he already knew what happened in Asgard and was working hard to return to Asgard. Just as a few people were talking, the Rainbow Bridge appeared again not far away. When the dust settled, the figure of the destroyer was revealed inside. The moment they saw the destroyer, several Asgardians, including Thor, showed expressions as if something bad was about to happen. That's actually the destroyer armor, how did it appear here?" When Thor saw the destroyer, he couldn't believe his eyes. "You know, the destroyer is a battle armor controlled by Odin, so... Okay, stop standing there and think about how to deal with this." Li Hung looked at the people in Asgard who were at a loss, and then he spoke up to remind them. "It's just a battle armor after all. We still have a chance of winning." Then they came together to a place not far from the destroyer, and several people were on high alert. Coulson ordered the agents to start evacuating the crowd in the entire town to avoid accidental injuries in the battle later. Tony has learned from Li Hung that the armor in front of him is actually the armor of the god King Odin. This makes Tony stare at the destroyer with great curiosity, because his idea of armor is completely different from Odin's. Just when several people were busy with their own things, Sif suddenly saw that the destroyer's body began to emit light, and then his head deformed, and the light gathered at the gap in the head. "Get out of the way!" Sif screamed and dodged to the side, and Li Hung also took Tony and Coulson to the side. The next moment, a laser shot out from the destroyer's head and shot towards where everyone had just stood, blasting the ground into pieces. The 3 Asgardian warriors were blown away because they failed to react in time, and Thor quickly ran over to check on their condition. At this time Li Hung asked Tony and Coulson to be careful not to be hurt by the destroyer, and then Li Hung walked towards the destroyer. He wanted to try out how strong he was now. He was worrying about not having a way to test it, and then the destroyer appeared in front of him. Li Hung took advantage of the time after the destroyer fired the laser and rushed directly in front of it, then clenched his right fist and hit the destroyer's abdomen hard. This punch made the big destroyer retreat repeatedly, but it was not hit, only its abdomen was deformed. Li Heng had a rough grasp of his own strength and was able to deform the Uru metal. While Li Heng was thinking, the destroyer aimed directly at Li Heng's side and continued to shoot lasers. The next moment, Li Heng teleported directly behind the destroyer, then continued to move forward and hit the destroyer several times with his fists. During this attack, when Li Heng touched the destroyer with his hand, he directly activated the system's ability, copied the destroyer exactly, and placed it in the system space. Chapter 75. At this time, the destroyer actually wanted to use his fists to attack Li Heng, but Li Heng, who had achieved his goal, would not be stupid enough to go up and fight it in close combat, so Li Heng also kept his distance. At this time, Tony took advantage of the fact that Li Heng attracted the destroyer's attention and launched several missiles from a distance, but the effect was minimal and had no effect. "Ha, this armor is quite tough," Tony said. Immediately afterwards, Thor came over to join the battle after checking the situation of the 3 Asgardian warriors. But now Thor has lost his divine power and is no match for the destroyer. He is easily lifted up by the destroyer and smashed into a car in the distance. Several people from Asgard quickly ran over to see how Thor was doing, while Li Heng stepped forward and punched the destroyer several times to continue attracting the destroyer's attention. Then when the destroyer fired laser at him, Li Heng noticed something different from before. The power of the laser fired by the destroyer was much lower, but its flexibility was improved. Li Heng guessed that it was not Loki who was controlling the destroyer now, but Odin who had woken up and was secretly controlling him, and even Loki might not have noticed. However, it was because he noticed Odin's actions that Li Heng did not follow his original idea of using the power of space to cut the destroyer into several pieces to solve the problem. So Li Heng did not directly deal with the destroyer. After all, he still had to give Odin face. In the eyes of the 3 Asgardian warriors nearby, they saw Li Heng fighting fiercely with the destroyer, and the fight was very close. They were all stunned. This was the armor of Odin, the father of the gods. How could anyone on Earth be able to fight on equal terms with the destroyer? This is incredible. Sif was surprised. Tony saw Li Heng violently beat the destroyer until it was deformed, and he swallowed his saliva. He knew that Li Heng had been improving, but he didn't know the details of Li Heng's strength. Now watching the scene of Li Heng fighting with the destroyer, Tony felt that Li Heng was like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus Rex. Then, while others were watching, Li Heng and the destroyer fought back and forth. Either Li Heng hit the destroyer, causing the Uru metal on its body to deform, or Li Heng was accidentally hit by the destroyer's fist. Li Heng, who was knocked away, breathed a sigh of relief and began to treat the destroyer more seriously. Because at the moment he was hit just now, Li Heng noticed that the destroyer's power had increased slightly compared to before. So Li Heng prepared to use the power of space. He gathered the power of space into his fist, forming a blue ball of light that wrapped around his fist, and then teleported to the side of the destroyer. The moment the destroyer saw Li Heng disappear, it turned around. It thought that Li Heng would appear behind it like before, but this time it guessed wrong. Li Heng did not appear behind it, but appeared on its side. It was caught off guard and took a solid punch from Li Heng. The punch contained the power of space, and its force was so great that it directly knocked destruction away, and a gap appeared in the part that was hit. Seeing this situation, the destroyer no longer chose to engage in hand-to-hand combat, but instead fired a laser from his head. Li Heng quickly summoned a space gate and teleported the laser to the side. Li Heng guided the laser to the side and hit the ground, making a rumbling sound. Seeing this, the destroyer prepared to fire the laser again, but this time, Li Heng found that its energy changed from yellow to red. Obviously, Odin increased its power, and it seemed that he also wanted to test the limit of Li Heng's strength. Li Heng looked at the laser that was already in front of him. He couldn't divert the laser this time, so he could only bear it. So in the shortest time, Li Heng covered his body with a layer of space force, and then used his body to withstand the attack of the destroyer. Li Heng took a look and thought, "Odin, you old man, I was just fighting for fun, but now you want to fight me for real." So Li Heng started to get angry. He had wanted to save some face for you and did not attack the destroyer before, but since Odin started to take real action, Li Heng was no longer polite to him. So, Li Heng directly used the power of space and hit the destroyer twice. With just 2 hits, Li Heng created a hole in the destroyer's abdomen, through which he could see the scene behind. At this time, Loki in Asgard suddenly stood up. He looked at the through hole on the destroyer's body with an ugly expression. He didn't expect Li Heng to be so powerful. He should be one of the best on earth. Loki couldn't believe that Thor had such good luck. After such a long time on earth, he actually met Li Heng, and Li Heng was willing to fight the destroyer for him. But it was obvious that Loki was thinking in the wrong direction, but this did not affect his judgment of the situation. The destroyer was already in a strange state, and Loki began to vaguely sense that there seemed to be someone else driving the destroyer. After waiting for a while, Li Heng saw the destroyer attacking again, so he stepped forward to continue fighting. Not long after, Li Heng used the power of space to separate the destroyer's legs from its body, so that the destroyer could not move freely. The three Asgardian warriors, Sif and Thor nearby all felt incredible. Originally, when they saw that Li Heng was able to fight back and forth with the destroyer, they were already very surprised and thought that Li Heng was very powerful and could be on par with the destroyer. But the current situation is that Li Heng can actually use other powers to remove the destroyer's legs. Since he can do it with the legs, then Li Heng can also remove other parts of the destroyer. When the destroyer's legs were removed by Li Heng, Loki lost his composure and instead looked at Li Heng, not knowing what to do next. At this time, Li Heng said to Tony, "Tony, you can study this armor to see if it can help with the development of your Iron Man suit. I need to take a break now." After saying that, Li Heng stopped and did not continue to target the destroyer, but he still took the destroyer's two legs from a distance and handed them to Tony. When Tony heard what Li Heng said, he also came to Li Heng and studied the destroyer's legs. At the same time Tony asked Li Heng, "Li, are you sure this big guy has been dealt with? Is there anything else that will happen suddenly?" "It's okay, don't worry.